Auntie Mickey's house. Oh yeah, yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie's house. You're in the house. You know you're in the house. Come on in and grab a seat, grab a seat. Come on in and hit that light, hit that light. Oh, you're right, Mickey's house. Auntie Mickey's house. Grab a seat, prop your feet. Let's sip some tea, sip that tea. Entertainment, news, and spirituality. From the culture to the fun, Auntie sets the tone. Sets the tone. With a laugh and a truth, she holds the throne. She holds the throne, yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Come on in now. Auntie Mickey's house. Oh, Auntie's house. You're in the house. You know you're in the house. Come on in and grab a seat, yeah, yeah. Come on in and hit that light. Don't forget now. Auntie Mickey's house. She can roast with a smile, drop wisdom too. Break down the headlines, bring it straight to you. Straight to you, baby. Community strong, conversation grown. Grown talk, baby. Auntie Mickey's house. Make yourself at home, yeah. Come together, every voice is heard. Every voice. Respect the vibe, let's share the word. Oh, yeah. From the jokes to the prayers, she keeps it real. Keeps it real. Auntie Mickey's house, that's the deal. That's the deal, baby. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie's house. Oh yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie's house. Known in the house. You know you're in the house. Come on in and grab a seat. Grab a seat. Come on in and hit the light. Hit the light, hit the light. You're at Auntie Mickey's. Yeah, yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie Mickey's. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie Mickey's house. It's Auntie Mickey's house. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie's house. You're in her house. You know you're in her house. Come on in and grab a seat. Grab a seat, come on in and hit that light. Hit that light. Oh, you're at Auntie Mickey's. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Auntie's house. Auntie's house. Auntie's house. Grab a seat, drop your feet, let's sip some tea. Sip that tea. Entertainment, news, and spirituality. From the culture to the fun, Auntie sets the tone. With a laugh and a truth, she holds the throne. She holds the throne, yeah. Auntie's house. Oh, Auntie's house. You know you're in a house. Come on in and grab a seat, yeah. Come on in and hit that light. Don't forget. Auntie Mickey's. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie Mickey's house. Oh yeah, yeah. She can roast with a smile, drop wisdom too. Break down the headlines, bring it straight to you. Straight to you, baby. Community strong, conversation grown. Don't talk, baby. Auntie Mickey's house. Make yourself at home, yeah. Come together, every voice is heard. Every voice. Respect the vibe, let's share the word. Oh yeah. From the jokes to the prayers, she keeps it real. Keeps it real. That's the deal. That's the deal, baby. Yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie's house. Oh yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. You know you're in a house. Come on in and grab a seat. Grab a seat. Come on in. hit the light. Oh, you're right, Auntie Mickey's. Yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie Mickey's house. Oh.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. The weekend is almost over with, but I'm glad to still be here in the land of the living. The land of the living. Hello, Serene. Hey, Black Lion. Hello, mate. How are you doing, my brother? How are you? Good to see you. Long time no see. Hey, there's my hubby. Hi, baby. How you doing? You still on the phone? He liked the phone. Love you too, sweetheart. Love you too. Oh, so, yes, I am back to talking about the Nolan Wells case, as you can probably see. And, God has a way of bringing things out when it's necessary. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Dr. Umar, but I watched this interview, and the brother brought the you-know-whats, the GUNS. He was popping caps. Now, some of his analogy, I have to admit, it was a little off in terms of little tiny pieces of information that were not necessarily true, but it had nothing to do with the actual narrative of the story. It had no impact on guilt or innocence, or alleged guilt or alleged innocence. These were just little details that really didn't matter either way. Hold on just a second. Black Lion says, yeah, I've been super busy. I'm so sorry. I've been building my own lawn care business called Lions Lawn Care, and I've started writing and releasing music. Good for you. Good for you. I am so proud of you. Tell Mama Cricket I said hi. All right. Serene says, I haven't seen it yet. Well, you about to now. You about to see it now. Yes. I'm glad it notified you, Black Lion. You know, YouTube has been they've been tripping with the notifications. I ain't gonna lie. But welcome, nevertheless. And welcome to everybody that's here, whether you're in the chat or in the bushes. I appreciate your presence. And as for the respecting of the platform, everybody here is entitled to their own opinion on this subject matter. However, I will not tolerate disrespect. Okay. People have a tendency sometimes, especially on touchy subjects just as this. That's when the racist people come out and want to get on your nerves. Hey, Janaya, how are you, sweetie? They want to come out and bite at your nerves. I won't let that happen. If anything, I might bite back. You know my mouth. But that's usually a tactic that's used to throw you off your game. And this case is so polarized right now, but it's necessary that it stays in the news. It's necessary for everybody that can possibly bring this to the forefront to let it keep going, because that's what they want us to do. They want us to stop talking about it. Like everything else, they want us to stop talking. Hello, Maureen. How are you, sugar? So they're not gonna succeed in that matter. There's too many of us. We have an army. You can't sue everybody. And there's something about when somebody sues you, you can countersue. And with that privilege comes discovery. Because if you want to countersue, or if you want to sue me for defamation and I countersue you, then I have the ability to pull up all your business. All your business. And I don't think you want all your business out there in the streets. But we're not going to go there with that. We're just going to talk about this particular case. We're going to watch this video. I will give commentary on this video. I've got a lot of notes here that I probably won't even look at, but I just write things down as it comes to my remembrance. So, but I do have a theory, and I'm going to continue to tell everybody what my theory is until this thing is over and done with, or until the case is closed, or whatever you might want to call. Okay. I believe that whatever Nolan had on his phone is the key to this whole thing. I believe that Nolan, because remember, his mother said he was a videographer. He loved to take pictures. He loved to take video. He loved Snapchat. All of these things to capture his day and the people around him. Don't forget, he got into it with somebody behind his phone. Exactly, Serene. Exactly. Serene said it right here. It's all we got is theories until they get their act together. And that's the sad part about it. The way that Mississippi is playing in our faces so arrogantly, chances are we may not legally get to the bottom of this, but we know in our heart that young man should not be gone. He shouldn't be gone at all. And it's really unfortunate that he had such a kind spirit, because he entrusted some people in his life to be his friends, but they weren't. And I think we've all experienced that at some point in time in our lives, be it as kids or adults. What about the black retired police that has the video? Has what video? You must be talking about Slewfoot Brandon. Brandon Tatum, the Slewfoot coon, that one. The one that came out and, tap danced for the families of those boys. Yeah, see, that was tactically done as well. That was to throw a monkey wrench in the whole thing. See, we've got a black guy out here that's, doesn't believe that they did anything. Yeah, he's a piece of work and a piece of shit. Equally, in equal doses. Ain't nothing worse than a person that will sell out his own people. Thank you, Maureen. Thank you, sweetheart. But they have a tendency, they're going scorched earth to defend their narrative. And they keep changing the story as they go along to accommodate whatever, obstacles they run into along the way. But, when you've got power in high places that are willing to back that up, to back up that bad behavior, this is what happens. The only way I can see this come into how can I put this? The only way I see this being treated fairly is if the federal government steps in and takes over. And I'm not talking about FBI in Mississippi. I'm not talking about the Mississippi people in the FBI staff in Mississippi. I'm talking about DC FBI. Because everybody in this country, or should I say every state in this country, ain't like Mississippi. Mississippi seems to forget that they're not the only ones in this country, but they're in a little, they're in their own little world. They got some money. And they think, since they run in that little town, they can run anything. No, you got it twisted. You got it twisted. This is an army you're dealing with. They're dealing with an army right now. They'd never thought in a million years that this story would still be talked about right now. And had it not been for content creators on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, it would be gone. It's the content creators that kept it out there. And then legacy media comes along and says, what you guys talking about? You're right, Maureen. So far, this case hasn't been treated fairly or thoroughly. And they don't care if we know it. Because their goal is to keep them boys out of jail. But not only that, it's not just the boys that they're protecting. Because remember, there were adults on that island too. As a matter of fact, there were some adults on them boats. Those are the ones that are really needing protection. The ones with the power. See, those boys don't have no power. Their parents do. And those are the ones that are truly being protected in this scenario. That's just my own opinion. Okay. But my theory is that Nolan had information on his phone, and he probably didn't even realize it. He's out here snapping pictures of everybody. He don't even realize what he's snapping pictures of, but there was activity going on that island that had no business going on. Because think about it, that island is federal land. It's federal land. But there's no police activity. There's no police surveillance out there in terms of policing. There's nobody out there to check people when they're doing illegal things. So the people that go out there on that island, it's considered to be an exclusive island. They think it's theirs. We the rich ones here, and we're going to, claim this island to be ours. This is our little playground. And when we come out here, we're going to do what we want to do. See, they get out there and do whatever the heck they want to do, and they let their kids do what they want to do as well. But it would not surprise me if Nolan had something on his phone that they didn't want in the public eye. Possibly something very incriminating as to certain activity that have no business going on, especially in front of other adults. Now, it's one thing for kids to be kids, but when you've got adults there as well, seeing the activity, they're culpable. Give me my M&F phone back. They wanted to say that was somebody else. That was Nolan. That was Nolan telling somebody, give me back my effing phone. So somebody took his phone. That's where this started. Somebody took his phone. Whether they decided to do it themselves or they were told to do it by an adult. Maureen says it sounds like that island was a cesspool. It might be, allegedly. We don't know, but we do know this, that out of all them people on that island, there was hundreds of people on that island. And the one black boy that's on the island is dead. The little mixed one, he don't count because he considers himself to be white. That's how he rolls. He was out there with his white uncle. It was his white uncle that told him to get on the boat after he got into an altercation. Serene said, and the size of Grandpa's boat, there would have been a camera on that too. We have them on big marlin boats like that. So again, it starts with that phone, and everything thereafter. There's pieces that you can put together. You can, the bottom line is I feel in my heart it's that phone, whatever was on that phone. Because think about it. Warren ends up with the phone. Nolan's gone. Now, Nolan has been said to stay behind on this island that he's never spent the night before at. Why would, out of all these times, coming up as a kid to that point, 18 years old, and you decide to stay behind for a girl? A girl, mind you, that they all acted like they didn't know, but they knew Katie. They knew Katie. She was no stranger, but that was what they tried to make us think. And when they saw that that wasn't going to work, they had to change up their story in other ways. But I'm going to go ahead and start playing this video, because if I keep talking, I'll just end up talking all night. And I think the main thing here is this video. This is Dr. Umar. And like I was saying about Dr. Umar before, Umar has his own little devils and demons to deal with. Okay. Maureen, that's it. That's it. There must have been evidence of something illegal on Nolan's phone. And that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking, allegedly. I keep saying allegedly. They say it doesn't matter if you say that. But it's a possibility. It's a possibility. Serene says, and and I know, when we go with our kids to celebrate anything, we look out for all the kids, not just ours. Exactly. But getting back to Dr. Umar, Dr. Umar in his own right is very a controversial person. He's got his own demons to deal with, but that has nothing to do with this case. And despite his, the things going on with him, that still doesn't take away from the fact that this man has got a very brilliant mind. And he breaks things down in such a way that, he's saying the things that a lot of people won't say. I'll put it like that. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Now, this is a long video, and I may have to jump forward a little bit just to, get through it. Hold on just a second. There is one other thing I wanted to add, though, before I forget. Okay, hold on just a second. Because I told you I have a theory of, what has happened to Nolan or why. I believe that the phone is the key. And, they came out saying that, it was an apparent accidental drowning without even conducting an investigation. That's where the sheriff messed up. I mean, he came out so prematurely, it was crazy. Okay. Let me see. Serene said, I truly believe there's a mama bear that's got the truth. I pray they keep her tucked away till the time is right. Somebody knows. Somebody knows. Because that whole island, everybody on that island is tight-lipped. Tight-lipped. There's some fear going on, But there's been several different things stated as to, how he passed away. And, they're saying that it was an accidental drowning, even though the coroner retained his throat structures, his stomach, his lungs. In other words, he held back valuable parts of his body that could settle it right now. Could settle it right now. If you say he drowned, then you have the proof. Shut us all up if that's the case. If he drowned, you have the ability to put a lid on any speculation if he drowned. But let's call a spade a spade. I mean, if he didn't drown, why would they bring out the information that would debunk what they said? Janiyah says, Mickey, I heard on Nancy Grace that there was blood in the back of his head. I was going to touch on that. Yes. I was going to touch on that. Here's the thing about that theory. There is, now, if he was hit in the back of the head, that's one thing. Chances are if he were literally hit in the back of the head, that would have caused some kind of damage to the skin itself. There was no breakage, no cut, nothing like that. The red that was behind his head was under the skin, okay? And it wasn't blood pooling from laying on his back, because remember, when they found him, he was face down, okay? When they transported him face down, okay? But I have a theory about that too. I'm going to share that video before I go into this interview. I have to share this first. Okay, hold on. Let me turn down the music. You know me. And music gets in my way. Okay, so let me go ahead and share this again. Uh-oh. Okay. La 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 la. I'm going to play this. And I want you to tell me what you think. Okay. This is a technique in jiu-jitsu. And it was alleged that there were people on that island that were known to have taken jiu-jitsu classes in the past. Hey, Yolanda, how you doing out there lurking? I see you. But this is a real short video, but I want to show this to you because it proves a point, okay? It proves a point.
Welcome back to UFC Tonight. Uriah Faber is an absolute choke artist, but in a good way. He has 17 submissions, and of those submissions, 9 of those is your patented rear naked choke. One of my favorite moves. It's been your signature move. Let's walk us through it.
Okay. So at Team Alpha Male, we have a lot of different series that are proprietary. We have a choke series, an armbar omoplata series. We have an X guard, single leg guard, etc. So
this video shows you the rear naked choke technique. This is a demonstration. It was on UFC Tonight. There's several videos on YouTube that show you how to do this particular chokehold that can kill you. Point blank, period. But just check out the technique and pay close attention to the arm behind the head. Okay?
I'm going to give you just a little taste of one of the rear naked choke series,
All right.
and also a transition from a crucifix series. So again, I'm here. I've taken this guy's back, this poor soul. First thing I'm going to worry about here is protecting the choke hand. It's 2 things. It's 1, a fast route to his neck. It's 2, a bait to make him do the wrong thing. So this is the hand that's the danger hand. I'm going to take this other hand. I'm going to cover as much of it as possible. I'm going to hide this choke hand. So when this guy feels my hand around his neck, he's instinctively going to grab. When he does, he's grabbing the wrong hand. 2 things happen. I release my arm down, and I bring my other one up, and I cover his neck. Now, I have to be strong in here with this position. I'm not going to let my arm budge. As he finds out, it's too late. I'm already covering my hand, the easiest part for him to attack, to get control of, with my face as a sacrifice. Sometimes getting punched in the face.
This technique is so effective that the people that are demonstrating the victim, the alleged victim in the videos end up tapping out before the guy can always, tell the whole procedure. That's how effective this particular chokehold is.
But that's okay because we're tough dudes. And then the moments when he starts to fight it, I release my backhand.
Look at
He
his
grabs
face.
onto my hand if he can get a hold of it, and I shove this hand down, and I bring my hand back and sink in this lock a little bit tighter. As I sink that in tight, I'm looking for a moment to keep my arm bent. I don't want to bring my arm out in front of him to get this lock. I'm going to keep my arm bent, slide it behind
the head,
cut like a knife to bring this tight. I'm bringing my head forward and squeezing and bring my elbows back.
Tapped him out.
That's one. I'm going to show an actual transition from a crucifix series, which I did to Ivan Menjivar for submission of the year in 2013, but I did it standing. So I came out, I'm in a crucifix position, one crucifix position. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my back leg is the one holding his arm down, and I'm going to threaten his neck. I'm not actually thinking I'm going to choke him with this hand, but I make him think it and feel a little pressure. As he does that, he instinctively pushes in to lighten up the choke, which gives me the space to slide underneath, take his back, keeping his arm trapped. With this arm trapped, it's easy to put this arm around his neck. I fall to the side, and again, I'm going to secure this hand with my underhook hand.
It's over.
Keep my arm bent.
Right behind that head.
Just like that.
Right behind that head.
Two small variations, and there's a lot more to that.
You know, what I love about the chokes is that it takes the whole tough guy thing out of it. It doesn't matter how tough you are. Once you get the choke in, you're going to tap out.
Yeah, I had an experience where I was fighting a guy, Tyson Griffin, actually, in an Indian casino outside in the middle of the day. And I got him in a knee bar, and he just sat there and let me twist on his knee, and he kept punching me. And after that, it was all chokes.
Exactly, Maureen. Exactly. Let me exit out of this. Janaya said, is this man really showing us what happened? No, I pulled that video up to show a possibility of what could have happened. Okay, Maureen said, the pressure on the artery will cut the circulation off to the brain in seconds, so they can't fight back because they're unconscious. Exactly. And the thing is that the point I was trying to make is that by placing your arm in the back of the head and applying pressure could be the cause of what that redness in the back of his head was. You follow me? The fact that the medical examiner withheld the throat structure is very telling. Very telling. Because not only would that, if they had included that, we could have known for sure that, he had drowned or did not drown or drowned. That it's easy to prove a drowning. But by leaving that neck structure out, that throat structure, that would have also told damage to the throat. Asphyxiation. And nobody's saying it was intentional. Nobody's saying that. But this is a possible cause of death. Because once again, we're getting back to the fact that on the in the autopsy, they were unable to determine cause of death. That's because, or I won't say they maintained that on the first autopsy. I'm talking about the second one. The second autopsy, based on the fact that the first medical examiner did not forward critical body parts along with that body, which is customary to do. If they wanted to maintain a certain portion of it, they could have taken a piece of it and sent the rest with the rest of the body. But no, they kept the whole damn kit and caboodle. No, we don't know if there was water in his lungs because they kept the lungs too. So they kept evidence that would tell us if he had drowned or not. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. So Maureen said the mark on the back of Nolan's head could have been a long bruise from the pressure of the arm. Bingo. That's what I'm trying to say. See, people are saying he might have been hit in the back of the head. If he was hit in the back of the head, the damage would have been a little bit, in terms of damage to the skin. There would have been breakage to the skin. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just saying that I'm throwing stuff out there as possibilities. I'm not saying this is actually what happened to him, but it's a possibility. Hey, Devon. Hello, Auntie Mickey. Chat listening. Another lady was found hung in Mississippi. Yes, Monday. Yes. And that we're gonna have to talk about that too, because now they really playing in our face. It wouldn't surprise me if they did that just to tell us, yeah, we can still do whatever we want to do. We can still do whatever we want to do. That's how I took it. Serene said, ridiculous, keeping the most important evidence. Absolutely. But they did that for a reason. They did that for a reason because they know what killed Nolan. But they're behaving as though, yeah, we're going to take our ball and go home. We're not going to play with you. Because professionals, real professionals, in cases where there's more than one autopsy done, just like in this particular case, as a professional, the goal is to get to the bottom of what you need to find out about the death. And the two are supposed to collaborate together, not withhold shit. Okay, Janiyah said, if not to the skin, Mickey, it could have happened to the skull. But the skull was not damaged at all. It's just this red mark in the back of his head under the skin. So, but yeah, this is a message. I believe personally it was a message to everybody. Look, y'all, we still running things down here, down yonder. Okay? But as professionals, meaning the medical examiners, medical examiner number 1 is Mississippi's medical examiner. And if the governor is on the side of the boys, if the DA is on the side of the boys, if the medical examiner is on the side of the boys, if the police chief is on the side of the boys, what does that tell you? Hell, the one of the mamas is a doggone judge. She was the first one, as far as a professional, one of the higher up professionals. She was first one on the doggone scene to help them boys. Okay? So again, I just put that out there just for your consideration. Okay? That this could have been a possibility. Okay, so let's get into this video with Dr. Umar. Hold on just a second. Dr. Umar. Okay, here we go. And again,
Dr. Umar, happy to have you back, man. What you been up to, yo? It's been a while, yo, since I had you on the platform.
Yes, just taking care of business, fighting for the school, doing what I do, helping the parents with their children, raising a consciousness. The work never stops. The work never stops.
Yes, indeed, man. Had to bring you back on. The people, they've been asking me to bring you back on for the longest, man. So it was only right to bring you back on. It's so much I want to talk to you about, though, man. It's so much to get into that I want to get your take on. Nolan Wells, how you feel about that situation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Nolan Wells. Nolan Wells. You know, when the case first broke, Art, I just kind of sat back because I knew the YouTubian struggle streamers were going to run with it. I knew the white liberals on YouTube were going to run with it. I knew the white racists on YouTube were going to run with it, and everybody in between. It hurts my heart for Sister Christine, Nolan's mother,
Absolutely.
to have to see so many people using her son's name and crisis and tragedy for clickbait. And that's one of the biggest reasons, Art, I kind of stood back.
Amen.
It almost reminded me of the Freddie Gray police unaliving in Baltimore back during the Barack Obama era. When Freddie Gray lost his life to those police in Baltimore, everybody rushed to Baltimore. They did the same thing with Michael Brown in Ferguson, not because they necessarily cared about the tragedy, but because they wanted to benefit personally from it. And so I stayed away from Ferguson. I stayed away from Baltimore.
Now, I disagree with that. I don't think that just because people ran to this story, the whole intent of everybody was to profit off of it. I really don't believe that, because Black people care about what's going on in this country. You know, now, brother, if you speaking from experience, you got to speak for yourself. But we still have a voice. And last I heard, I don't make that much money to spend all my time researching and all this stuff, you know, on this case, just because it's a way to make money, because it ain't enough money as far as I'm concerned. It's chicken shit. I do this because I give a damn. I give a damn about my people. And you get sick and tired of seeing them play in our faces all the time. All the time, playing in our faces. They and again, I'm not trying to throw no stones or nothing like that. This is true fact. That it benefits people in this country to be Caucasian more so than African American or any other demographic for that part. They are at the top of the totem pole. And the wrong ones take full advantage of that and need to be exposed. Point blank, period. Now, I'm not saying they the only ones out there, because we got some bad Black folk out there too. I promised I wouldn't get in this brother's ass. But, he ain't special either. Let me get started again.
And I stayed away from the Nolan Wells situation for a while because I didn't want to look like so many other people who just jumped in to have something to say, to use that young man's loss of life for clickbait and views. Now that it's been over a month since he lost his life, I think it's okay for me to speak now, because everyone else has kind of given their opinion, their analysis, their synopsis, and their feeling on the situation. So I'm going to give mine. First of all, Nolan Wells, Javon, and I want Javon to hear this, and I want any other Black person who was on Devil Horns Island that day to hear this.
Welcome to Auntie Mickey's house, Alonzo. I really appreciate your coming and putting your input in the chat. I appreciate you. You're always welcome here, sweetheart.
And I want any Black person who was celebrating the 4th of July to hear this. No Black person, no Black freedman, no Black immigrant, no member of the Black race at all should have been celebrating July 4th, 2026. No one should have been celebrating America's 250th solar return. And why? Because our ancestors were still enslaved on July 4th, 1776.
This is true.
So why are we on White Devil Horns Island anyway, celebrating George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton?
Okay, all that being true or a point of opinion, which I agree, that has no bearing on the case itself. Okay? No bearing on the case. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit because that opinion, be it a valid opinion, it has nothing to do with why Nolan is gone. Nolan is not gone because he celebrated a holiday that was made for white folks. That's not why he's gone. Okay. Hold on just a second. Let me see.
The 4th of July as an African is to celebrate the enslavement. I've read Nolan, Warren, Wyatt, and Trayston left for Horn Island the morning of July 4th. According to Warren's own words that he offered during an interview with Officer B.T. Coon, that's Coon as in C-U-N-E, Coon as in K-H-E-W-N, Coon as in K-U-H-N, Coon as in C-O-N-N. So Warren did a sit down with Officer B.T. Coon. And as we all know, B.T. Coon is white YouTube's pet monkey. He's white YouTube's pet monkey. So Warren sat down for an interview with white YouTube's pet monkey. And he said that they left for Horns Island the morning of July the 4th, and that it was approximately 30 of them spread across 3 boats. Approximately 30 youth spread across 3 boats.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. This is where it gets weird, because if we go back even further to the beginning of this story, did I miss something? Because initially this story, when it came out, it was 3 white boys and a black dude and 1 boat. Did I miss something about 30 people in the very beginning of this situation? See, this is what I'm saying about how the story has changed. Things have been added to the story. Because as I recall, and because I've been following this thing from the very, very beginning, this was 1 boat, 3 white boys, and a black dude that go out to this island. And 4 go out there, 3 come back. The black one doesn't. Okay? And now we're talking about 3 boats and 30, 40 people, and all this has grown to that point. And I don't want people to be dissuaded by the fact that this story has evolved into something else. Stuff has been added to this story. Hold on, Serene said. And furthermore, a boat being towed always catches eyes, especially if it's blowing. And see, Serene, I don't have experience in boating, but just from watching all this play out, I've learned a little bit in terms of things to look for in blowing and stuff like that, in boating, I should say. So you right on the money about that. Hold on.
They all went to Horn Island together. They arrived at approximately 11:30. So they left around 9-ish, 8, 9-ish, whatever the case may be. They left the morning of July 4th. They arrived on White Devil's Horn Island at about 11:30. So 3 boats, 30 youth, they went together. I'm not clear on whether the 3 boats came back together or not. That's another question that I have, Art. Did they come back together the same way they left together? Because I'm treating all 30 of those white youth and all 3 of those ships as crime scenes and as suspects. All 3 ships are potential crime scenes. All 3 boats are potential crime scenes. and all 30 youth are potential suspects. I don't know why.
Okay, what I meant by that, Yolanda, is that what I'm saying is when the story initially hit, this detail was not given to us at the very, very, very first onset of the story itself, is what I'm saying. At least I didn't hear 30 boats, 20 people, or 3 boats, 20 people. That came a few days later. But I'm just saying from the initial onset, that's all they talked about was, these guys got on a boat, and went out there. And then later on, it was said, I think it was in the video, in the interview, that Warren gave, who, Race Batum Tatum, that he elaborated more. So that's what I meant by that. Sunshine says, not this fool again. Here he goes. Oh my goodness. Mel Gilliam says, Umar the race baiter. Serene says, as long as you don't call it Bodism like Pascal. Oh my goodness. Exactly, Yolanda. That's just it. There's so many stories. It's muddied the waters. Is basically what it is. Now, I'm gonna have to do some housework again. Just bear with me for just a moment. For all those that are just coming in, you are free to have an opinion. You are free to have an opinion. Whether your opinion agrees with mine or vice versa is not the point. We're all allowed to voice our own opinion. However, this is my house. And when you come in my house, you respect my house. Okay? That's all I ask. Do not be disrespectful to the people in the chat or the person on the platform, which is me. I will shut you down. Especially if you start insulting. Okay? Everybody's free to have a difference of opinion, but do not insult people in my chat. And do not use vulgar language. That's my job. My house, my rules. Thank you, Yolanda, for the 10 jewels. Thank you so much. Now, again, I'll go back to Dr. Umar. He does have his faults too. He's got his reputation. His reputation is not connected to this story. I'm putting that out there right now. Okay? Mel says, definitely muddied things up. Yes. Okay.
Jackson County Sheriff Ledbetter or Jackson County District Attorney Mulrath, I don't know why they decided to separate the boat that Nolan was on. Warren's boat, I don't know why they separated that boat from the other two for purposes of investigation and analysis, because those 3 boats operated as a team. And since they went out there as a team, and it hasn't been made clear to me whether or not they came back together as a team, all 30 white youth and all 3 boats should have been part of this investigation, not just the one boat. That is my first big issue with this case.
Let's see. Brizo says he made 2 good points. Warren called Nolan's mom asking, did she hear from Nolan, knowing he left him on the island and had his phone and didn't tell Nolan's mom. I agree with that, because how is he supposed to call his mom if he don't have his phone? And Warren knows he doesn't have his phone, nor did Warren even tell her that he had his phone. So that turned out dun, 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 dun. Didn't look too good for Warren in that respect. Okay. Now, that whole scenario is based on the fact that they're saying that they left Nolan on the island. Some people believe that versus Nolan being on the boat. There's a lot of contention out there as to where Nolan was when he lost his life. Now, me personally, I don't believe that he was on the island. I don't believe that they left him. I don't. Okay. So he's giving that narrative because of what came out of their mouth, or what came out of Warren's mouth. We left him behind because he wanted to stay behind to chase a girl. Okay.
Who decided to separate the other two boats and the other 20 or so youth? I got a problem with that, Art, because according to the Cajun Navy, they have no GPS information on the other two boats, Art. They have no GPS information on the other two boats. Now let's get into this. According to Warren and Nolan's other so-called white friends, they decided to leave the island around 4:30. So they were roughly on White Devil's Horn Island from 11:30 to 4:30. That is about 5 hours. About 5 hours. Now, one question that has to be asked, Art, why did y'all leave so soon? Because they party on Horn Island all day long. Y'all didn't leave at sunset. Y'all didn't leave at sundown. Y'all left after only being there 5 hours. That's a little suspicious, Art. And I haven't heard anybody ask any of them, why did y'all decide to leave after only being there for 5 hours? Did y'all plan to only be on White Devil's Horn Island for 5 hours? Why did y'all leave at that time? But we'll deal with that later. So then let's listen to Javon, Nolan's other best friend. Now, another problem I got with this whole story, Art, is Nolan allegedly had too many best friends. I'm trying to find out, how does Nolan have so many best friends?
So-called. Let's fix that. So-called best friends. Because, again, I read people. I don't know about y'all. Okay? I read people, I read their mannerisms, and I read their words when they're telling me something. And Warren, just listening to his interview, gave me these vibes that yes, they hung out together. You see what I'm saying? But he referred to Nolan as Nolan. He referred to the other guys as his buddies. And it gave me these vibes like Nolan was a tag along or something, that they kind of tolerated him. Maybe it's just me, but that's kind of the vibes that I got from that interview. Okay.
And why did all of these so-called best friends leave their best friend on White Devil's Horn Island without his cell phone and keys? I'm trying to figure this out. So Javon claims he's Nolan's best friend. Warren claims he's Nolan's best friend. And Trayston allegedly claims that he's Warren's best friend. So did Warren have 3 best friends? Excuse me. Did Nolan have 3 best friends? Did Nolan have 13 best friends? Did Nolan have 30 best friends? Because if Javon is the best friend of Nolan, and if Warren is the best friend of Nolan, and if Trayston is the best friend of Nolan, exactly how many best friends did Nolan have? Are y'all making this up? Who did Nolan tell?
Vinny Spina says, if these boys are innocent, I better hear all your apologies, because every point you are making is pure speculation, as I have every right to do is speculate. I'm not saying they did or didn't do it. Nobody, from what I can tell in this chat, has said that they did anything. It looks suspicious. Okay? Now, you're entitled to your opinion. However, don't come in here telling me what you better hear. Not up in here.
Warren was his best friend. Who did Nolan ever tell Trayston was his best friend? I'm not going to question Javon, because he's a brother. And I do believe that there's a strong chance that they may have been best friends. And I say that not only because Javon is a brother, Art, but I also felt that Javon, through the investigation team and alley-oop, with some of the answers that he gave on TMZ. Some of Javon's answers, in my opinion, kind of made it clear to me he actually cared about Nolan. He actually cared about Nolan. I believe Javon actually cared about Nolan. And because of that, I'm willing to say that Javon may have actually been Nolan's best friend. I wish somebody would have asked Javon, Art, to your knowledge, has Nolan ever called Warren his best friend? Has Nolan ever called Tristan his best friend? To your knowledge, Javon, has Nolan ever told you that Warren and Tristan were best friends of his? Because, Art, I'm having a problem with this three best friend narrative. Okay? I used to be 18 years old. You might have one best friend. You may have two. Don't get me wrong. If you all hang in a pack, you could have three best friends. But according to Javon's own words, Art, he didn't really hang around with them other guys too much. That's what I allegedly thought I heard him say. He didn't hang around with them guys too much. So if you got 2 or 3 or 4 best friends, you guys normally travel as a group. Javon seemed like he kind of spent most of his time with Nolan alone, just the two of them, not with Tristan and Warren. Although he knew them, it didn't appear that he hung out with them on the regular. So how could they all then be best friends? It's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying it's unlikely. So according to Javon, Art, he saw Nolan at 3:40 on the island. According to Javon, what I heard him say to TMZ allegedly was that he had another friend who was involved in an altercation and that he left Nolan at about 3:40 to go check on his buddy, because according to Javon, his buddy was on another ship and the parents of whomever on this other ship were trying to get him off the island because he was crashing out. He never said who this friend was. He never exactly told us what happened, but he said, I left at 3:40 to go check on my friend on another boat because, quote unquote, well, these are not his words, I'm paraphrasing, he was kind of wilding out, crashing out, and he needed to help calm him down.
Let's see, Blue R3. I'm sorry, I don't want to mess up your name, love. Blue R sign. Javion is the only black friend. Is that why he's the only friend you believe? I never said who I believe. But I will say this. Javion is the only friend I'm aware of that went to the funeral. He was a pallbearer.
Paraphrasing. He said when he got back, Nolan was nowhere to be found, and I'm paraphrasing. And Nolan's boat that he came on, Warren's boat, the so-called Big Daddy, the 22-foot Triton, had already left the scene. So according to Javon, I left Nolan at 3:40 to go deal with another situation. I came back, he was gone. According to Katie, the white girl who Nolan's white best friends are trying to use as an alibi in this situation. Okay, because they claim, and Warren said the same thing to Officer B.T. Coon when he spoke with him. They claim that Nolan told them, I'm going to hang back on this island and talk to Katie. You guys go ahead and I'll get back however I get back. Again, I'm paraphrasing. But guess what? We learned through Katie's sister that Katie said she has no knowledge of Nolan ever saying that. In fact, Katie said, Art, that Nolan told her, I got to get ready to head back to the boat because my friends are leaving soon. That don't sound like somebody who plans on staying, Art. Okay? According to her sister, Katie said Nolan told Katie, it's time for me to head back to the boat because my friends are going to be leaving soon.
Let's see. Why is Umar considered to be a doctor, and being a doctor, do this make it set in concrete? It's my understanding that Umar has a doctorate degree. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what the claim is. But him being a doctor does not make this set in concrete by any means. This is his analogy, just like the rest of us. He's given his point of view, just like the rest of us. Blue says the other friends were not welcome at the funeral. Okay, let me keep going here. Now, I didn't hear that, but I heard excuses from other people that were given, saying that it would probably be awkward for them to go. So I can see both sides in respect to that. If they felt that they would have been targeted, I can understand them not going. I'm just saying, me personally, I'm just speaking from my own point of view. If that were my friend, my real friend, I cared about him, I wouldn't give a damn what anybody thought about me going to my friend's funeral. That's just me. That's all I'm saying.
As far as I'm concerned, Art, Javon and Katie both threw us an alley-oop. Javon and Katie are throwing Sheriff Ledbetter of Jackson County an alley-oop because neither one of them are corroborating the story of Nolan's white friends on that boat. In fact, Javon said, this ain't adding up. Javon said, it's not like Nolan to say, you guys go ahead and leave me on this island and I'm just going to stay back to talk to this girl who I barely know. According to Javon, it don't make no sense. Javon ain't stupid, Art. That's his friend. He know damn well Nolan didn't tell them that he was going to stay back on that ship. And then Katie, I'm going to give a little bit of respect to Katie on this situation. Because as a white girl, Art, for her to come out and say that is not what happened, for her to come out and say that Nolan told me I got to get back to the boat because my friends are leaving, for her to say that, Art, that took a little bit of courage and honesty. That took a little bit of integrity. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to give her too much credit because she is trying to clear her name. What Katie is basically doing, Art, is she's saying, listen, y'all did whatever y'all did to Nolan, but you're not going to add me to the narrative. I'm not serving as nobody's alibi. I'm not helping nobody get out of this situation. You're not going to use me as a decoy, but I still appreciate Katie speaking up for Nolan, Art, because she didn't have to do it.
You know what? I apologize, you guys. I didn't realize that my mic was muted, so I was saying quite a bit of stuff, and I don't even remember now what I was saying. But nevertheless, in terms of talking about the friends going to the funeral, I can see why they didn't. I can see, the explanation that was given. It's a plausible explanation. However, again, I'm just speaking from my own perspective. If that were my friend, I wouldn't give a damn what other people thought. I would be at my friend's funeral. If that was my true friend, my bestie, my friend, there's just some things you just toss to the wind and say, screw it, let the chips fall where they may. If I'm innocent, I'm going to say, well, shit, I didn't do nothing anyway, and I'm going to my boy's funeral. That's just my own perspective. Now, that's not to say, like I said, that doesn't necessarily say that they're guilty or innocent. Okay? You guys are all entitled to your own opinion on that. I'm not here to dissuade you either way. I have my own opinion as well. Okay?
Although she's trying to protect herself and stay out of the investigation, although she's trying to protect herself and stay out of the investigation, I appreciate Katie for letting the world know Nolan told me I got to head back to the boat because my friends are getting ready to leave. Now, according to Katie Art, she spoke to Nolan sometime between 3 and 4:30. Now, her window appears to be wider than everybody else's window. So Javon's window is much smaller. He said, I saw him at 3:40, went to deal with another situation. By the time I came back, they were gone. Katie said I spoke with him between 3 and 4:30. And I allege, Art, one of the reasons that Katie is making her window so wide is she trying to leave a little bit of
Blue, I'm sorry, I don't know. Okay, Blue says Nolan absolutely did tell them he was staying behind. Trayston is biracial. He was on the Triton boat. He said his friend Nolan refused to get on the boat. Witnesses hear him yelling at Nolan. I don't know where that information came from, sweetheart. What can you tell me where you saw that at? Was that in an interview or something? Because I've seen the interviews, and I mean, unless you were there, you're. And what does Trayston being biracial have anything to do with anything in terms of whether he stayed behind or not? Maybe I'm just reading this wrong, but here we go.
wiggle room for Warren and them to get their story straight, allegedly. I think Katie trying to leave a little bit of wiggle room for Warren and them to get their story straight, Art. Now, according to our sister Christine, and my heart goes out to Sister Christine, Nolan's mother. My heart deeply, deeply goes out to you, Queen. According to Christine, Art, she heard from a coach who ran into Nolan on the island as well. And according to the coach, he spoke to Nolan between 2:30 and 3:30. So Javon didn't see him after 3:40. The coach spoke to him sometime between 2:30 and 3:30. And Katie said her conversation with Nolan was between 3 and 4:30. So you know what that means, Art? We can pretty much digest, conclude that Nolan was likely to have been unalived, Art, sometime within the hour of 3:30 to 4:30. I'm going to insinuate that Nolan's life was taken because I do not believe he accidentally drowned. If he drowned, he was forcibly drowned. And we'll get to that in a minute. If Nolan drowned, he was forcibly drowned. He did not accidentally drown. He was a great swimmer. Miss me with the nonsense. That boy did not drown. If he drowned, it was by force. So again, Art, all three of these people, arguably the last three to see him alive, except for those who took his life, Katie, the coach, and Javon, are arguably the last three people to see Nolan alive, except for those who took his life on that boat, allegedly. That's my position.
Okay, hold on. Here we go. Wait a minute. Because I kind of see something here I have a question about. Okay, Blue says Trayston admitted he was yelling at Nolan to get on the boat, and Trayston said he's the one who got in a fight that Umar referred to. Right, I understand that, but maybe I'm missing something. When did Trayston... I recall Trayston saying that his uncle made him get on the boat and they left. So... because Trayston left with his uncle. So I'm trying to figure out why would Trayston be yelling at Nolan to get on the boat if he's not on the boat himself? He got on the boat with his uncle and they left because of the fight that he got into. Okay, here we go.
So they're all basically cutting off around 3:30, Art. Remember, they made the call for the emergency sea tow at 4 o'clock. Javon said he cut out 3:40. The coach, 3:30. They made the call at 4 o'clock. That conversation we heard, the sea tow call, which we're going to talk about in a minute, that took place at 4, it sounded like there was some struggling going on in the background. Nolan could have been getting unalived while they were making the call, Art. Nolan could have been getting unalived while they were making the call. Nolan could have been getting choked out while they was on the phone with Cito. So again, Art, my position is Nolan lost his life somewhere within the hour of 3:30 to 4:30. Now, before we go any further, Art, I need Ben Crump, investigation team, and Sheriff Ledbetter's investigation team to have a conversation with Javon, because according to Javon's statements on TMZ, the police never spoke to him. And I have serious concerns with the manner in which this investigation has been carried out so far, Art. I have very serious concerns with the manner in which this investigation has been carried out so far.
I agree.
So anyway, Javon said police never spoke with him. Why? We need a conversation with Javon, not because I think he's a suspect. I believe Javon is innocent, but we need to find out what he knows. That's number one. We also need a conversation, Art, with the coach. Who is this coach that Sister Christine said contacted her and told her he had a conversation with Nolan on the island between 2:30 and 3:30? We need to find out what he knows. And according to Katie's sister, she is already cooperating
Okay, Blue.
with the authorities. But here's why those three got to be spoken to, Art. Not only so we find out what they know, Art, but did they see each other during their conversation with Nolan? Because Javon, if you was talking to Nolan and left him at 3:40, and if Katie was talking to Nolan sometime between 3 and 4:30, and if the coach was talking to Nolan between 3:30 and 4:30, Art, at least two of you should have ran into each other. Did the coach see Javon? Did Javon see the coach? Did the coach see Katie? Did Katie see the coach?
Absolutely,
Did Katie see
Nick.
Javon?
Absolutely.
Did the coach see Katie? Art, if all three of them are saying they saw Nolan for the last time, roughly within the same hour, hour and a half, Art, did y'all run into each other? Let me tell you why I'm asking this question, Art. And I'm not throwing no shade at my brother Javon. I like Javon. I'm not throwing no shade at Miss Katie McCormick. I don't know her. I'm not throwing no shade at the coach, Art. But the reason I need to know why all y'all put y'all time within the same frame and you may have not possibly seen one another, Art, are you guys keeping yourself out of the window of witnessing this crime by saying you didn't see him after 3:30? I want you to follow what I'm saying here, Art.
Okay, Roman, really? If he was murdered, it was by the girl or another black person. Are you serious? Man, that's some racist ass shit to say. I'm sorry. You gotta go. You gotta go. That's bullshit. Come on, man. I told y'all, don't come in here with some bullshit.
It's kind of interesting that they all saw him last at 3:30, not after 3:30. Javon 3:40, roughly 3:30. My point is, Art, for all three of them to have the same exact time, if they did not see each other at all during these conversations with Nolan, are they pushing up the window of time during which they saw Nolan so they cannot be included in this investigation as a witness to a crime? In other words, Art, I don't think Javon had nothing to do with it. I know he didn't. But is he saying he saw Nolan a little earlier than he saw him so he can't be pulled into the investigation?
Okay, Jason, maybe you didn't hear what I said before. First of all, do not be cussing in my doggone chat, okay? Second of all, you're free to have your opinion just like I'm free to have mine. But don't be up in here cussing in my chat. This is my house. I cuss. And if you don't like it, then you can kiss my entire ass. As a matter of fact, Yeah, fuck you too. You and your mammy. How about that? Everybody that's in here cussing, I'm just booting your ass out of here. Get up out of here. Because now you're being disrespectful.
I don't think Katie had nothing to do with the crime, but it's Katie putting her conversation with Nolan a little earlier than it actually took place to make sure she can't be dragged into the investigation as a witness to a crime. Is it possible that the coach is putting his conversation with Nolan earlier than what it was, Art, to make sure he cannot get dragged into the investigation? I don't think they had anything to do with it, but they could have been a witness to a homicide, Art. They could have been witness to a homicide. If they did not see each other, if none of those three people, the coach, Javon, and Katie, if they did not see each other at all talking to Nolan, if none of them saw each other talking to Nolan, at least two of them are lying about the time they last saw Nolan. Are you following me, Art? All I'm saying is I have my suspicions as to whether or not this convenient 3:30 cutoff window, I have my suspicions that this convenient 3:30 cutoff window may have not actually been the time they saw Nolan. They may have saw Nolan closer to the time he lost his life. Now, stay with me, Art. I want to back up for a minute. And I want to say this to Brother Elmore, Nolan's stepfather. And I want to say this to Coach Tracy, who I believe was one of Nolan's coaches. Brother Elmore, the stepfather, and Coach Tracy, the coach, both said on national television, Art, that they don't think race played a role in this at all. Elmore, Tracy, two dark-skinned black men in Mississippi, and both of them said on national television, I don't think race had anything to do with this case. I am disappointed in Brother Elmore. I am disappointed in Coach Tracy. How dare you help these young people?
Let's see. Trizzy. Wait a minute. Let me go where I just saw that. Who was it that asked if he was a doctor? Oh, Lloyd. Okay. He said that he got his doctorate degree. I can't verify that. I haven't tried to verify that. I'm just saying that he said he received his doctorate degree, I want to say in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure that could be researched, though. Okay. And yeah, Michael. Yeah, that part right there. But that has nothing to do with this case, okay? But I agree with you on that. I really do. That has nothing to do with this particular case. But I agree with you in your assessment.
Avoid the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. federal hate crimes law, Art. By you saying you don't think this had anything to do with race, Brother Elmore and Coach Tracy, you are helping these white folks avoid federal hate crimes charges. And let me tell you why this is important, Art.
Okay, Lloyd, check this out. Because this is the go-to that many of you do, okay? You throw a rock and hide your hand and then blame those that have been thrown a rock at to blame the thrower for racism. Look in the mirror, sweetheart. That's all I'm going to say about that as you leave my chat. Have a good day.
Let me tell you why this is important. Under the federal hate crimes law, Matthew Shepard, James Byrd, signed by Barack Obama, 2009. Under the Federal Hate Crimes Act, Art, you can go to jail for life. You can go to jail for life under the federal hate crimes law. So if you can go to jail for life under the Federal Hate Crimes Act, Art, why is Nolan's stepfather and coach telling white folks they don't think it had anything to do with race? I still love my brother Elmore. I still love my brother Coach Tracy. But would y'all please watch what comes out of your mouth during this investigation? Because you are undermining justice for Nolan. I hope you're listening, Brother Elmore. And I hope you're listening, Coach Tracy. You are undermining justice for Nolan by saying you don't think race had anything to do with it. How in the hell do you know? How do you know if race had anything to do with it? How well do you know these young people? It was 30 of them, Art. It was damn near 30 white youth spread across 3 boats. How many of them did Elmore know? How many of them did Coach Tracy know? So how are you going to go on TV and say, I don't think it had anything to do with race? Why are you helping them avoid accountability for what they may have done? I don't know if they did it, Art. You don't know if they did it. They don't know if they did it. And they definitely don't know if it was motivated by race. What they should have said, Art, is what Javon said. And that's why I like the young brother Javon. That's why I like that young brother Javon. His mother, Sister Tashima, shout out to you. You raised a good kid. When TMZ asked Javon if he thought it had anything to do with race, Art, when TMZ asked Javon if he thought this had anything to do with race, he said, what? I don't want to answer that question. I don't want to answer that question. Perfect answer. Perfect answer. Or, Art, they could have said, I don't know. Nolan's stepfather could have said, I don't know if it had anything to do with race. Coach Tracy should have said, I don't know if it had anything to do with race. But to say you don't think it had to do with race when he was the only black boy across 3 ships?
Let's see. You know, you guys, I have to stop the video every now and then to commentate, okay? I'm not doing that just to be doing it, okay? Just YouTube rules, just to let you know. Okay, Richard said, I don't think it was about race at all. Just because it's a lot of white people, it doesn't mean it's about race. I don't know myself. And that may be true. That's a very good analysis. That's a good way to put it, okay? The thing is that we're also looking at the history of Mississippi and, you know, the tendency, especially in the Deep South, of a lot of racist behavior against black people in that region that causes speculation about this particular issue. Okay. I don't know if you heard, but a young lady was just found hanging from a tree in Jackson, Mississippi on Monday, and she hung there for 3 to 4 days. Now, we don't know if a white person or a black person did it, but they ruled it as a suicide, even though they had to use a ladder. The fire department had to use a ladder to climb up there to get her down. Now, make that make sense. It's just that the hierarchy has a tendency to cover these situations up. That's why there's so much scrutiny right now. Okay?
Are you out of your mind? Why would you say that and help them avoid the Federal Hate Crimes Act? Javon gave a better answer than those 2 black men. Javon, a child, gave a better answer than those 2 black men, Art, when he said, I don't want to answer the question. And shout out to Javon, Art. He's intelligent. You know why? Because by saying, I don't want to answer the question, he answered the question. Of course, race has something to do with it.
Okay, King's Frost, can you tell me where you saw that information? Because as it's being told online right now and in the news, it's saying that it was ruled as a self-deletion. So maybe somebody's reporting it differently. Tell me where you saw that at. I'd love to go look at it. Okay.
This is the United States of America. Race has something to do with everything involving black people. The country was built on the backs of black people. It's maintained on black people. We are disproportionately represented in the criminal justice system, overrepresented in the unemployment line, under the poverty line. Of course, everything in this country has to do with race. And I'm disappointed in us, Art, that we are so afraid to call racism what it is, that we literally got people asking us, when a white person takes the life of a black person, do you think it had anything to do with race? When a police officer takes the life or shoots a black person, do you think it had anything to do? What kind of idiotic gaslighting question is this, Art? All white people are racist. All white people are racist. So we can stop asking if it had anything to do with race. If it's black and it's white, it has something to do with race because all white people are racist. That's just how it is. Now let's get back to this. Before we deal with the infamous CETO call, Art, I got a few questions for Warren. I want to deal with that infamous CETO call, Art, and I want to deal with Sister Tashima and Sister Christine's visit to Warren's home to get Nolan's cell phone. I want to deal with them two in a minute, but before I go there, I got a couple questions for Warren and his white friends. Nolan's best friend, and Warren even called Nolan his brother, Art. He even called him his brother. He said they spent the night together before they went out to White Devil's Horn Island, Art. The night before, July 3rd, they stayed in the same home. How do you stay in the same home with somebody, Art, and leave them on an island? How do you sleep in the same house with somebody July 3rd and then leave them on an island July 4th? But I got a few questions for Warren. No disrespect. I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm not saying he's guilty, but I got a few questions for you, Warren. Since you could sit down and interview with Officer B.T. I need you to sit down and interview with Dr. Umar Ifatunde. So you can sit down and interview with Officer B.T. I want you to sit down and interview with Dr. Umar Ifatunde. My first question to Warren.
Okay, Nikki, he said all white people are racist. LOL, this dude is whack. I don't agree with that statement either. Again, I don't feel that all white people are racist. Okay. Again, please don't think that just because this guy is kind of off the chain that, you know, what he is speaking some truth in behind the crazy shit is what I'm trying to say. Okay. So a lot of y'all may not like what he's saying or like what his reputation is. That has nothing to do with this case. His perception does not necessarily reflect everybody else's perception on white people or black people in general. Okay.
You said that Nolan is a best friend of yours, that he's like a brother. I have a question. If Nolan is your brother and best friend, why did you leave him on that island, especially when you all were drinking?
Because they didn't.
Because somebody put a report out there, Art, that Nolan had been drinking heavily and was intoxicated. Of course, that allegation was dismissed because the coach who contacted Sister Christine confirmed that he spoke to Nolan between 2:30 and 3:30, and Nolan was not intoxicated. So they lied to protect their friends because white people are always on code, Art. Not a single white person on that island dropped a dime yet. Not one of them. So anyway, Art, they tried to blame it on him being drunk. So he was just a drunk black kid who walked into the water and drowned. That's the narrative they wanted us to swallow. He was just a drunk black kid who walked into the water and drowned. And remember, Art, Sheriff Ledbetter allegedly ruled the case an accidental drowning before he did any investigation. He ruled Nolan's death an accidental drowning before he did any investigation. As far as I'm concerned, that meets the definition of public corruption. As far as I'm concerned, that meets the definition of public corruption. But staying with Warren, Art. Warren, if Nolan is your brother and best friend, why did you leave him on an island without his cell phone and his keys?
In my opinion, I don't think he did, to be truthful about it. But good question. If that's the story that you're sticking to, why would you leave him out there by himself with no keys and no phone? If your story is in fact true, then why would you do that if that's your friend?
Why did you take his cell phone and keys back to the mainland? You left him there and took his cell phone and keys back. Can you please explain that to me? What person wants to be on an island without their phone? Help me understand that, Warren. I don't know of an 18-year-old who wants to be anywhere without their phone, Art. They don't want to be in school without their phone. They don't want to be at home without their phone. They don't want to be out of town without their phone. They don't want to be at the mall, the movies, the restaurant. They don't want to be nowhere without their phone, let alone on an island with no way to get off. You left your best friend on an island, your so-called brother. You left him on an island with no way to get off, and you took his phone and his keys. Can you explain that to me, Warren? While you're thinking about it, I got another question for you, Warren, while you're thinking about it. You said at 11 o'clock.
Okay, you know what? Sinister made a very valid point. And this is where some of Dr. Umar's information may not be totally correct. The keys themselves were left back at the mainland with the car. Okay. Clearly he didn't know that. But the phone wasn't. The phone was, Nolan kept his phone with him when he went over. But the keys, on the other hand, you're correct. The keys were left at the mainland. And that's why it's important for people to, get an understanding. If they don't have it right, they need to get it right, get the correct information. Okay. Hold on just a second.
You called Miss Christine to see if she heard from her son. Warren said, Art, I called Miss Christine to see if she heard from Nolan. She said she had not heard from Nolan. Can I ask you a question, Warren? If you took his phone, how in the hell was his mother supposed to hear from her son when you have the son's phone? Did you tell Miss Christine that you had her son's phone when you called her? I bet you didn't. I bet you didn't. Think about that, Art. He called the mother and asked her if she heard from her son. But he knows she didn't hear from her son, Art, because he has her son's phone. How can the mother hear from Nolan when you have Nolan's cell phone and you left him on an island? And I bet you didn't tell her you had his phone. Because if she knew you had his phone, Art, she would not have had to use Life 360 to find the phone. If you had his phone and you called her at 11 o'clock to see if Nolan was okay, why didn't you tell Nolan's mom you had his phone? Why did my sister Christine and my sister Tashima have to use Life 360 to find their son's phone? Because you playing games. You playing games. You playing in our face like we stupid. That's what this is. I don't know if he did it, Art, but he damn sure knows who do. I allege and I believe that all 30 of those white kids on all 3 of them boats know exactly which one of them did it, and the rest of them are covering it up. And guess what, Warren? And the rest of you 30 white kids on those 3 boats, let me explain something to you. Federal hate crimes law, you can go to jail for the rest of your life in case nobody didn't tell you. federal hate crimes law, you can go to jail for the rest of your life in case nobody told you.
Okay, Sinister, the likelihood. Okay, Sinister first said because he could have used someone else's phone, and he did tell Christine he had the phone. This goofy knows nothing of the case, obviously, but people still take this for gospel. Let me address that real quick, okay? Because again, the goofy part, that's your opinion, okay? But the point that you made about he could have used someone else's phone. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of phone numbers in many people's phones because it's automatic dial that you can just tap on that person's name. Many people don't know the phone numbers of the people that they're calling. Okay? And it's very conceivable that he didn't know his own mom's number. Okay? You can't rely on the fact that he could have used someone else's phone when he has his own phone. If he elected to remain behind, common sense would be that he would have kept his phone with him. Okay? It doesn't make sense, oh, I'm going to hang behind, but y'all can go on about your business. I'll catch up with you. And I'll just use somebody else's phone to call whoever I need to call, even though their phone number is not in that phone. You see what I'm saying? It's not common sense. He could have used anybody's phone if he knew the number. We don't know if he knows the number by heart. There's many numbers that I call in my phone that I don't know by heart. I got grandchildren who have phones. I have to pull their name up and tap on their name to call them because I don't know their number by heart. Blue said, but he should know his own mother's number. Okay, that's a matter of opinion. Young people don't think like us. Okay? Everybody don't memorize. The way technology is nowadays, it takes away the necessity to think on your own sometimes. You have a device that stores all of your phone numbers, and all you got to do is pull that person's name up and tap on their name, and your phone will call that person. It's just a matter of opinion to think that he would know his mother's phone number by heart. But it makes better sense that he would keep his phone rather than run around asking for someone else's phone. Okay? Hold on.
Guess what? The Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act, you can go to jail for up to 30 years. And if Nolan was unalived by more than one person, that constitutes a lynching. That constitutes a lynching. So you can go to jail for up to 30 on the Emmett Till Act. You can go to jail for life on the Matthew Shepard James Byrd Hate Crimes Act. And in the state of Mississippi, Art, if you are an accessory after the fact, not accomplice. Accomplice means you participated in the murder. Accessory means you helped cover it up afterwards. If you are an accessory to the fact after the fact, Art.
Okay, I missed your point. I thought you were saying that Nolan should know his mother's number by heart. I didn't take that statement to be something else. So, duly noted.
You can go to jail for up to 20 years, Mississippi law. So they can go to jail for up to 20 years, Mississippi law. Accessory after the fact, you helped to cover up the crime. You can go to jail for 30 years on the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act because more than one of you probably participated in Nolan's unaliving. And under the Matthew Shepard James Byrd Federal Hate Crimes Act, Art, they can go to jail for life. And this is why I need Nolan's step pop and coach to watch what comes out of their mouth and stop trying to help these white kids avoid accountability for what they did to Nolan. Because if the tables were turned, white folks are not going to try to help your child avoid any accountability. So stop the cutting. Now, another question I have for Warren. You said you and Nolan been friends since 8th grade. Since 8th grade, Art. But Sister Christine says she don't know none of them kids really, Art. She don't know them white kids. So help me understand how you are Nolan's best friend, friends since 8th grade. You called him your brother. Y'all spent the night together July the 3rd, the morning before y'all went to White Devil's Horn Island, and his mother don't even know who you are. And you said out your own mouth that y'all never hung out at Nolan's house. So how are y'all best friends? I had best friends growing up, Art. My mother knew who they were. Who has a best friend that they mom don't know about? Help me understand that. A best friend and the mom don't know him, it sounds suspicious. Why didn't you tell Miss Christine you had her son's cell phone when you called and asked if she heard from him? Art, as far as I'm concerned, there's probable cause he has something to do with this. Art, I'm holding her son's cell phone. I left him on the island. I took his keys and phone. And I'm on the phone with the mom. I got his phone, but I'm calling his mother at 11 o'clock. Have you heard from your son? And I'm holding her son's cell phone, and I don't even tell her. Art, this ain't making no sense.
Thank you, Valerie Moore.
This ain't making no sense. And I want to know from Sheriff John Ledbetter, Art, Jackson County Sheriff, you don't have probable cause just off of that alone? Somebody calls somebody's mom asking if she heard from him while they have their phone and left him stranded on the island. And if you care so much about Nolan, Art, if he cares so much about Nolan, the so-called white best friend, Art, why did you wait till 11 o'clock? Y'all left the island 4:30. Y'all left the island 4:30.
Okay, Bees, where did you hear that? She didn't want whites in her house. Where did you hear that? See, this is how information gets out there that's not even... This is the first time I've heard that one. She didn't want white people in her house. Tell me where you heard that. Because we got a lot of people spewing information out here as if they were there and knew these people. Y'all don't know none of these folks. But you're talking like you do instead of looking at the circumstances. Good Lord.
If you care so much about Nolan, why are you not calling his mother until 11 o'clock? It's pitch black outside at 11 o'clock, Art. It's pitch black. It's almost midnight, and you wait till 11 o'clock to call his mom and ask her if she heard from her son, but he's supposed to be your brother and best friend. Listen here, Warren. I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. And then I have a question for his dad too, Art. I don't know if you know this, but his dad has started an online fundraising platform.
Utalk says maybe they went swimming and Nolan was drowning, and instead of helping him, they all laughed and realized he was dead after then made a pact to not say anything. And you know what? That's a possibility. There's all kinds of possibilities. That doesn't, again, it doesn't mean that they did that to him. That would be considered an accident. Okay? So it's good to think about those things instead of just coming right out and saying, yeah, they did it without having any kind of proof. You can have your suspicions, and that's fine. But to come right out and say something without anything to back it up, no reasoning to back it up. There's a whole lot of reasons why people are taking the stand that they're taking in terms of thinking that these guys might know something that they're not divulging and that they're protecting themselves because of the history of Mississippi, the racist history of Mississippi. It's no secret. Okay? So again, that's something to consider. And it's not saying that they did it or they didn't do it. It's just a scenario. Oh, let me catch up. This chat is huge, and I'm trying to catch up. Okay.
For Warren and two of his friends, I think they raised $160,000 so far. $160,000. Nobody has been arrested. Nobody has received a warrant. Nobody has been indicted. Nobody has been charged. Art, if you are innocent, why are you raising money online? You ain't been charged with a crime at all. The state of Mississippi is doing everything they can to make sure y'all don't get charged with anything. So why are you raising money online? Why did y'all cancel your social media?
Okay, recovering liberal. Did you not know that Nolan was a swimmer? What made you think he couldn't swim? Or were you sent here to just say stupid shit? Come on, man. You gotta come better than that. Come better than that. Come with something plausible. Everybody knows that Nolan could swim. Swimming has nothing to do with the fact that those tides are treacherous. But to say, if you get in the water and can't swim, it ain't my responsibility to save you. First of all, God forbid that ever happens to you. Think about that if it ever happens to you. That's a real selfish mindset.
Why are y'all lawyering up? They hired Donald Trump's lawyer, Art. One of Donald Trump's lawyers is now the three of their lawyers. If you innocent, what you need Donald Trump's lawyer for? If you're innocent, what you raising $160,000 for? It sounds like y'all getting ready to defend yourselves. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like y'all think the truth is going to get out really, really soon, and y'all want to be prepared for it. Again, Art, I'm not saying he did it, but I definitely believe he knows who do. Now, we're going to get to this call. But before we get to this call, Art, I'm going to ask a question of Benjamin Crump. Attorney Benjamin Crump. I met him twice, Art.
Okay, Pete, just to answer your question real quick, they gave the boat back to them. The boat is back into the possession of the owner. Let me skip forward. This chat is really going fast, y'all. Charge it to my head, not my heart. Trying to keep up. Oh, and by the way, this statement right here, black kids make a pact and go to jail for not telling, that don't make it right. Wrong is wrong. I don't care what color you are.
I met Benjamin Crump the day before I graduated with my doctorate at an Urban League conference in New Orleans. I presented at a workshop at the Urban League conference in New Orleans. This is July of 2012. And I flew back to graduate and get my doctorate in clinical psychology. We had lunch. It's a few of us at the table. We had lunch. Okay. This is around the Trayvon era. And then I met Benjamin Crump again at HBCU Delaware State University about 3 or 4 years ago at the Black Farmers Conference that was put on by one of the black professors there. She invited me to keynote the luncheon.
No, I didn't.
And she switched me out at the last minute for attorney Benjamin Crump. I understand it was a black bourgeoisie event. I'm not a member of the black bourgeoisie. I got switched out. I understand. No harm, no foul. Ben Crump gave a good speech. But here's my question to Benjamin Crump and Al Sharpton. Art. How long are y'all going to wait around before y'all call a spade a spade? How long is Ben Crump and Al Sharpton going to wait around, Art, before they tell the world that they don't think this investigation is being done correctly? How long before Benjamin Crump and Al Sharpton demand that the FBI and Department of Justice take over this investigation? Art, it's been over a month and we know nothing. It's been over a month and we know nothing. Now, let me say this, Art. There's several circumstances through which you can demand the FBI come in and take over an investigation. One of them, Art, if there is a suspicion of public corruption or obstruction of justice, the FBI, the Department of Justice, can come in and take over a case on the suspicion of public corruption or obstruction of justice. So you're going to say, Dr. Umar, what evidence do you have of that? First of all, they declared this an accidental drowning before they did any investigation. That's a cover-up. Not only that, Art, they never treated the boat like a crime scene. They never took a look at the other two boats. We have no information at all on the other two boats. Those 30 white kids should have had their cell phones confiscated, investigated. All their social media should have been investigated. Their homes should have been investigated. They should have all been interrogated. They should have been investigated to see if they or their parents had any connection to any of the white hate groups in the state of Mississippi. None of that was done. They gave the boat back to the owner, Art. They gave the boat back. The boat may have been a crime scene, and they gave it back. Now, according to the Cajun Navy, another question for Ben Crump, Art. According to the Cajun Navy, they offered Ben Crump to put dogs on the boat and let the dogs sniff it out to see if anybody had recently been deceased on that boat or if there had been any blood on that boat. And according to the representative from the Cajun Navy, Ben Crump told him don't do it. So I need Ben Crump, respectfully, I'm not accusing him of nothing, Art, but I need Ben Crump to explain to me why you didn't let them use the dogs to sniff out that boat. Why did you not let them sniff out that boat with them dogs? Did you have your own dogs to sniff out the boat? Because if you didn't, why didn't you let them sniff the boat out with the dogs? The dogs can tell, Art, if somebody had recently lost their life or if blood had been spilled. He said Ben Crump told him no. I need Ben Crump to explain that. I need Sheriff John Ledbetter to explain why the boat wasn't treated as a crime scene, potential crime scene. I need him to explain why all them white kids wasn't arrested and
King's Frosty Bite said, this is why you wait for an investigation, because you get a bunch of what if. And absolutely. But here's the problem. The state of Mississippi isn't doing that. They're holding everything close and saying we're not going to reveal anything until it goes to the grand jury. And according to their schedule in the state of Mississippi, in that particular county, they only convene 4 times a year. The third time of the year just passed, which is July. The next time they convene isn't until October. So my suspicion is that they're holding on to this information, hoping that all this dies down, because it won't be until October that they even send it over to the grand jury. And then the grand jury says, well, I don't know, maybe we'll check it out, maybe not. We don't know how they go about deciding whether or not, they're going to even move this any further. That's why there's no trust in their justice system there. There's no trust. That's why there's so much speculation, because they don't trust them.
Questioned, because if it was black kids and a white kid went missing, Art, they would have all been arrested and questioned. You know that. They would have all been arrested and questioned. And then let's talk about the autopsy, Art. Let's talk about the autopsy. So the Mississippi State Medical Examiner, they do their autopsy July 7th, right?
Absolutely.
July 7th.
Absolutely.
And then Nolan's mother requested an independent autopsy, as she should have. They send Nolan's body to Washington, D.C. When the black medical examiner gets Nolan's corpse, Art, the throat tissue and the lung tissue is gone. How is he supposed to determine if Nolan died from being choked out
Magby says, Auntie Mickey, if I'm not mistaken, the Cajun cadaver team said Crump never responded. And again, I don't understand. Yeah, I mean, if they offered that, maybe he should have took them up on it. But I'm relying on the fact that he's the expert, not me. But coming from a layman person, that I would think the same thing. If somebody's offering you the opportunity to bring their cadaver dogs up on the boat, then why not let them? It can do more good than harm, I would think.
Or if Nolan died from drowning, if he don't have the throat tissue or the lung tissue, Art, how is he supposed to do his job? And y'all didn't send the throat tissue or the lung tissue. And nobody has explained yet whether or not the medical examiner in DC is ever going to get the throat tissue or the lung tissue. And I personally believe, Art, Nolan was deceased before he hit the water. I believe Nolan was deceased before he hit the water. And the reason they held on to the throat tissue and the reason they held on to the lung tissue is they didn't want nobody to know that Nolan was murdered before he hit that water. Just like Emmett Till was murdered before he hit that water. Just like Dr. King's brother, A.D. King, was murdered before he hit that water. Remember, Art, when Dr. King's brother was murdered, Reverend A.D. King, they found him in a swimming pool. They ruled it a drowning. And then one of the paramedics said, what, Art? One of the paramedics who took Dr. King's brother out the pool, Art, said he didn't have no water in his lungs. The paramedic said he didn't have no water in his lungs, Art. And plus, A.D. King, just like Nolan, A.D. King, just like Nolan, was a great swimmer, Art. Was a great swimmer. They kept them lungs, I believe. They kept the lungs, Art, because they knew that those lungs would have provided evidence of the fact that Nolan may have been deceased before he hit that water.
Okay, Kimberly, yes, Crump's team didn't respond because it's not his property. I can't believe people are questioning this. And again, I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying from a layman's point of view, a lot of people don't realize that. So that's the conclusion that they would come up with. That why didn't they accept the cadaver dog to come up there? But he doesn't have the authority to release that, let them do that. Hold on just a second.
They kept the throat because it may have shown some trauma that Nolan may have gotten choked out. And then you got the red substance around the back of the head that the DC medical examiner discussed. We don't know if Nolan got hit in the back of the head. We don't know if the blood simply drained to the back of the head. But here's the thing, Art. They say Nolan was found face down in the water. Nolan was found face down in the water, Art. Not only that, Nolan was transported face down to Washington, D.C. So guess what, Art? I have my doubts as to whether or not the red, which is probably blood in the back of the head, the subcutaneous red area, Art, I don't think that has anything to do with the blood draining to the back. You want to know why? Because he was found floating on his face. And he was sent to Washington, D.C. on his face. So the blood couldn't have went backwards, Art. I believe Nolan got hit in the back of the head, and it was that hit that cost him his life. It was that hit that cost him his life. It was that hit that cost him his life. Now, with that being said, Art, I want to go to Sister Tashima and Sister Christine going over to Warren's home, allegedly, to get Nolan's phone. So Sister Christine reported Nolan missing around 12:22 p.m. on the 4th. Sometime after that, her and Sister Tashima, Javon's mom, used Life 360 Art, and they tracked the phone to Warren's home, I believe.
King Frost said, if it's a drowning, what justice is there to be served? That's just it. If it's a simple drowning, we could have known this a long time ago if the original medical examiner hadn't held on to the information that would have proven that fact. That's where this is so weird. That's where it's so weird. If they said that it was an accidental drowning, then they've got the information to say that, yes, this is an accidental drowning. However, by them holding on to this, gives people the impression that it wasn't an accidental drowning, and that is why they're holding on to it, because that information would exonerate what the story is. Okay? Hold on, somebody says. Okay, Roman, please don't cuss in my chat, okay? Please. I'm going to ask you nicely. Do not cuss in my chat. Okay?
Believe it was Warren's home. Don't hold me to that. I believe it. No, I think it was one over the friend's home, lady friend's home. I think Warren said they were swimming at a lady friend's home. Whoever house it was one of them kids who was out there on White Devil Horns Island. So they tracked the phone to this house, Art. And Sister Tashima said when they opened up the door, the house was dark. You know what a house was dark, Art? They turned the lights off so they wouldn't recognize nobody's face. When they saw Nolan's mom is outside, this is what I believe happened. This is what I'm going to let. Nolan's mother and Javon's mother are outside. How did they know where we are? Turn the lights off because they are not going to leave until we open this door.
King Frost told the truth. There wasn't red substance on the back of his head. It was under his skin. And 9 times out of 10, that's from the body laying on a slab. Dr. Umar is a clown. And this is where he's got his information incorrect. However, Nolan was actually found face down. He was found face down. So the blood could not have pooled in the back of his head if he's laying face down, if it was something like that. Now, I have another theory that may not have anything to do with being hit on the back of the head. Okay? But you guys can speculate whatever you want. You know, laying on a slab is not part of the story. He wasn't found laying on a slab. Hold on just a second.
Turn the lights off, Art, so they could hide. They didn't know that Nolan had Life 360 on that phone. They didn't know that Nolan had Life 360. Now, Sister Tashima said, Art, it took them 15 minutes to bring the phone. Art, she said it took them 15 minutes. You know why? Because they was deleting his Snapchat accounts. That's why, Art. It took them 15 minutes to bring the phone because they were deleting Nolan's Snapchat account. And they also needed to make sure they had their story straight in case Sister.
Who's calling somebody out of their names, Natasha? We ain't gonna have all that. Who's calling people out of their names in here? Please let me know. If you see something, say something, please. I'm not gonna tolerate people insulting other people for having a difference of opinion.
Christine and Sister Tashima had any more questions, Art. That's what was going on. But let me say this to Sister Christine and Sister Tashima. My beautiful African sisters, don't you ever again in your life go to a home at that time of night by yourself without no men. Brother Elmore should have been with y'all. You are in Mississippi. You don't know who would have been in that house. You don't know what type of racist rednecks could have came out there and attacked you guys, and y'all could have ended up missing just like Nolan. And once again, they would have said they never saw y'all. And once again, they would have said that they never saw y'all. So please don't do that again. I know you was looking for your son. I know you was helping your girlfriend look for her son. But don't y'all ever pull up at no white people's house you don't know after midnight. Don't you do that no more, ladies. Bring a couple alpha males with you. Bring Brother Elmore with you next time. But this is what I wish they would have done, Art. Let me tell you what I wish they would have done. When Sister Tashima and Sister Christine got to that house, Art, I wish they would not have told them they knew the phone was in there. Stay with me, Art. I wish they would have not told them they knew the phone. They should have played it off, Art. They should have said, we want to know if anybody has seen Nolan. We haven't heard from him since he went with y'all to White Devil's Horn Island. And they would have said, we ain't heard from him, Art. And then I would have said, do you know if Nolan had his phone with him? I've been calling my son all day. He's not picking up. Do you know if he had his phone? And if they would have said no, Art, if they would have said, we don't know if he had his phone or not, you know what I would have done? I would have called the police and I would have told the police, Art, my son is missing. He went to White Devil's Horn Island with these white kids in his house. They have his phone. They don't know I know they have his phone. And they just lied to my face and told me that they don't know where the phone is and the phone is right in there with them. I believe that they are suspects in my son's disappearance and I want them all arrested. That's what I wish they would have done, Art. I wish they didn't tell them they knew the phone was in there. I wish they would have act like they didn't know if the phone was in there and just asked them if they saw the phone. And once those white kids lied, I would have called the police because they never thought anybody was coming for Nolan's phone and keys. They never thought anyone was coming for Nolan's phone and keys because they didn't know Sister Christine had Life 360 on that phone, Art. They did not know that. And I think it is so disrespectful, Art, so racist and so bigoted that white people are filing false reports on Sister Christine's nursing license, Art. She now got to go before the nursing board in Mississippi, Art. Nolan's mother, still grieving the death of her son, she got to go and defend her credentials because white folks are mad that she's demanding justice for her son. This sounds just like Mamie Till Mobley, Emmett Till's mother. They did the same thing to Emmett Till, Art.
King says, so they forced a 6'2" kid and drowned him with no bruising or marks on his body. Okay, now I've heard it all. I don't believe that. I personally don't believe he drowned, to be honest with you, but that's my opinion. I don't believe he drowned. But, you know, when you withhold information that could prove the case, it's clear that it's either one, he didn't drown and they don't want us to know, or two, that he drowned and they don't want us to know. It's like the autopsy can prove that. But there's something else that the autopsy can prove. It can also prove that he was choked out. And maybe that's what they don't want out there. Just saying what I'm saying.
After they assassinated Emmett Till, they harassed his mother. They sent her all type of threatening phone calls, letters, notices. Here we are, Art. 61 years later, they doing the same thing to Nolan Wells' mom. For black people who think white people have changed, Art, it's time to wake up and smell the coffee. They are their ancestors, Art. They are their ancestors. They might be worse. They are their ancestors. And since they are their ancestors, we need to be our ancestors. Now, let's talk about the infamous Cito call, Art.
Okay, King, really, you're gonna penalize her for having her own channel. This channel she had it long before Nolan died. Was she supposed to just lay down? He says no one's mom is grieving so hard that she made her own channel while putting on makeup the whole time and hasn't shed one tear. You have got to be crazy. I'm sorry. That's some, I don't know what you've been looking at, but man, I'm good. I'm good. You go, you do you, boo. You do you, boo. I seen that woman shed tears. And I think that's a really insensitive thing to say about a grieving mother. That's really messed up. That's really messed up.
So again, Javon sees Nolan at 3:40. The coach sees Nolan between 2:30 and 3:30. Katie sees Nolan between 3 and 4:30. I already told you I believe Nolan was unalive between 3:30 and 4:30. Now, our sister, what was her name? Jacqueline Brentley or something. Jeanette Brentley, Jacqueline Brentley. Forgive me, sister, for mispronouncing your name. But our sister, who is an audio engineer, Art, she went through the laborious process of cleaning up the background conversation during the infamous CETO call. She cleaned up the background audio during the infamous CETO call, Art. And during the infamous CETO call, Art, according to her cleanup, it sounds like they were trying to clean up an unaliving of Nolan Wells. You hear people saying things like, is he still alive? Did you unalive him? Is he okay? People are shocked, asking questions. Is he?
Tell me, when did she make the channel? King, when did she make the channel? As if that means a damn thing. What does that have anything to do with the loss of her son? Because she made a channel and she got online. You don't even know when she made the channel, number one. Number two, just because she's putting makeup on her channel, she's talking and still grieving. How dare you? How dare you? Boy, you going in hard on the paint for them folks, aren't you? My goodness. And gonna stand 10 toes down. Wow. Okay. You do you, boo. Tell me, how do you think she's supposed to grieve? Huh? How's she supposed to grieve? She's supposed to sit down on the porch and look down and not acknowledge anyone's presence or eat or drink anything, or just what? She's supposed to drool at the mouth? Come on now. Have you ever lost anybody in your life? Answer me that. Riddle me this, riddle me that. Have you ever lost a loved one? I'm going to assume that you have. And if you did you stop what you did on a daily basis? Did you stop going to work? Did you stop paying your bills? Did you stop washing your ass? Did you stop everything? Come on now. Be realistic.
Still breathing. If that tape gets corroborated, all the white young folks on those 3 boats need to go to jail, Art. They need to be charged, all of them. Whether you committed the crime, whether you was an accomplice to the crime, whether you was an accessory to the crime. Whether you committed the crime, first-degree murder, whether you was an accomplice to the crime, you helped them carry it out, whether you was an accessory to the crime, you helped them plan it, or you helped them cover it.
You still haven't answered my question as to when she made her channel. You just spewing out bullshit without anything to back it up. Give me the date that she made her channel, the reason she made her channel. You know why you can't tell me? Because you don't know that woman. You don't know her from Adam. But I tell you what would you do if that was your son. I would hope you wouldn't review makeup, buddy. You really teetering on the edge right now. You really teetering on the edge. You so concerned about what she did online on a channel. You're more concerned about that than what happened to her son. She can call people what she want the fuck to call them, you idiot. Now come on now. Don't be so damn stupid you can't take your head out of your ass and realize that people are still human and still have ways that they have to go about through their lives. Maybe it doesn't coincide with whatever you would do. Sound like you would do something real weird. So you can get the fuck out of my chat at this point. See ya. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, you guys.
Up, Art, because I'm having problems. I'm having problems with this investigation. It is too lax. It is too soft. And my question to Ben Crump and Al Sharpton, how long before y'all going to demand that the federal Department of Justice take over the investigation, Art? As I was saying earlier, you can demand the feds to take over the investigation, Art, if there is concern about public corruption and obstruction of justice. One of the boys' mom or stepmom, and I think it's Warren, allegedly, one of the boys' mothers or stepmothers is a chancery court judge. Another one of the children's parents is allegedly tied to the FBI. So, Art, if their parents are tied up in the Mississippi state power structure, if these children's parents are tied up in the Mississippi state power structure, you know damn well Mississippi is not trying to find any of those kids guilty of anything. You know that. Mississippi does not have a history of helping black people find justice against white people. That is not the history of Mississippi. It ain't the history of Arkansas. It ain't the history of Texas. It ain't the history of Louisiana. It ain't the history of South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, or none of those states. So why isn't Ben Crump and Al Sharpton calling for a federal investigation? That's number one. Number two, Art, guess what? Horns Island is federal land. Horns Island is federal land, Art. If Horns Island is federal land, Art, why are we not demanding that the feds do the investigation and not Sheriff Ledbetter? The island is federal land, Art. It's federal land. Why aren't the feds carrying out the investigation? That's the second reason they should be involved. The third reason they should be involved, Art, is there's a strong likelihood that this was a federal hate crime and a lynching. Very strong likelihood that this was Nolan Wells' death is very likely to have been a federal hate crime, and it is very likely to have been a federal lynching, meaning more than one person participated in the racially motivated crime. So I just gave you three reasons why the feds should be investigating this case and not the sheriff's office. Why is Ben Crump and Al Sharpton dragging their feet? Benjamin Crump, you need to have a street march. You need to bring all of the black militia groups to Mississippi, and we need to march on Mississippi. Your approach to this investigation is too humble, it is too docile, it is too meek, it is too soft. You are dealing with Mississippi, and you have not activated any street protests.
Dion said no polygraph test, and all them got lawyers right away, no tears for their so-called friend, didn't go to his funeral, caught in lies, etc. And you know what? I thought it was very telling when Tatum, I'm not going to call him out of his name tonight, when Tatum was interviewed by Nancy Grace, and she questioned him about the lie detector test or the polygraph test. And at first he said that they took a polygraph test, but then had to backpedal because they hadn't. He said that they took an equivalent to a polygraph test. See, he was sent in there to windmill. Okay, let's just be real about it. He was sent in there with a dark face, and I'm sure that they regret it now, because you notice that you don't see him out there running his mouth as much anymore. He was connected to Turning Point. That's the connection between the families and him. So they got the brother that would be willing to do all of the talking points that are usually something that you hear from white supremacists. He comes out there and talks that white supremacist slang and whatnot. And of course, this is what this is what they wanted. They used him to be the monkey, going in there and turn flips for us. But now they don't need him no more. He did his job. They have the capability to prove this case right now. They have it under lock and key right now. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. They know what happened, and they're holding it straight to their bosom. Because if it were a drowning, they have the proof that it was. But they have other proof. If it wasn't a drowning, they have other proof of what it was. And they don't want that proof out there. And that's point blank, period. These stories have changed as every day goes by. There's a new something added, something that was never said before. So when you have to continue to, if you go out there and tell lies, see, the bottom line is it could have very well been an accident and they got scared and covered it up. But getting scared and covering it up caused a bigger issue. And we're dealing with that issue now. Because now they're under suspicion based on their movements, based on the way that they behaved. If you act suspicious, people will be suspicious of you. Don't get mad. Accept the problem and do better. But don't try to sweep it up under the rug as though it's the other person's fault because them boys messed up somehow. And like I said, I didn't say they did anything specifically to him. I'm just saying that their behavior is suspicious and has been from the jump. Don't get mad at those that can call you on it. My thing is this. The whole thing started with a phone. What was on that phone? What was on that phone that they didn't want to be seen? What was on that phone that they didn't want out there? Because don't forget, Horn Island is an exclusive island that's mainly theirs. And when I say theirs, I mean the elite that occupy that area. That's their property, even though it's federal land. But they consider it to be theirs. This is where we come to hang out and do what we want to do, not under the sight of the police. See, we don't have to answer to nobody because we got such fat pockets. We can pay this person, pay that person. Don't get mad because people recognize what they see and call it out. Don't get mad. Just say oops. if you act a certain way and people see it, dadgummit, don't get mad when they tell you they see it.
Sister Christine and Brother Nolan are not going to get justice, Art. Sister Christine and Brother Nolan Wells are not going to get justice, Art, if Benjamin Crump doesn't activate a street activism campaign. It is time for Ben Crump and Al Sharpton to activate a street activism campaign. And let me say this, Art. Al Sharpton is about to have another march on Washington. For what? For what? He's going to commemorate the Dr. King 1963 March on Washington. He's been doing it almost every year. But Art, it's an empty symbol. Al Sharpton, listen to me, sir. You don't need to march on D.C. We don't need another empty, meaningless Democratic Party-sponsored march in Washington, D.C. We need you to switch that march, Art. Al Sharpton, if he cares about justice for Black Mississippi, if Al Sharpton cares about justice for Black Mississippi, Art, he will switch the march from D.C. to Mississippi. Al Sharpton needs to switch the march from Washington, D.C. to Mississippi. And it should be 4 days, Art. It should be 4 days, Art. We should march in Senatobia, Mississippi one day for Baby Cohen, who was shot and murdered by the police in the Walmart parking lot. We got to march for Baby Cohen, who was shot by the police in Senatobia. We have to march in Cleveland, Mississippi for our brother Trey Reed, who was unalived September 15th, 2025, hanging from a tree on Delta State University campus in Cleveland, Mississippi, September 15th, 2025. So we need to march in Cleveland, Mississippi. We need to march in Senatobia, Mississippi. We need to march in Jackson, Mississippi, because what just happened in Jackson on Monday, Art? A Black woman, 28, 29 years old, Tasia Fortune, was found hanging from a tree. Monday, Art, 4 days ago, a Black woman was found hanging from a tree in Jackson, Mississippi. And check this out, Art. They said her corpse, her body, had been hanging from the tree for 3 to 4 days, Art. 3 to 4 days, her body was hanging. It gets worse, Art. It gets worse. They said they had to use a ladder. They had to use a ladder to go up on the tree and get our sister Tasia down. And guess what the Mississippi State Medical Examiner ruled it, Art? Guess what she ruled it? The same thing she ruled Trey Reed's death as: suicide. Let me ask you a question, Art. How many Black people you know hang themselves from trees? I don't know no Black person who have ever taken their life by hanging themselves from a tree. In fact, it's almost impossible to hang yourself from a tree. In fact, Black people have been hung from trees by white people for over 200 years. So you mean to tell me the very method that has been used to take our lives at the hands of white people, we are now taking the method ourselves, Art. We are now taking the method ourselves, Art, and we're going to hang ourselves with a noose the same way white people used to hang our ancestors. Who does that make sense to? That don't make no damn sense. So now all of a sudden, when Black people want to take their life, we're going to go outside, get a noose, and hang ourselves suspended from a tree. That's nonsense. And the Mississippi State Medical Examiner, Art, every time a Black person is found hanging in Mississippi, she wants to rule it a suicide. You know why, Art? If you rule it a suicide, you don't have to investigate. Mm-hmm. If you rule it a suicide, you can close the case and you don't have to investigate. So Ben Crump and Al Sharpton need to turn up the heat under Sheriff Ledbetter's office. They need to turn up the heat under District Attorney Moraf's office because they are dragging their feet. They are not taking this investigation seriously. It is too quiet. We don't know anything. Sister Christine don't know anything after 30 days, and Ben Crump and Al Sharpton need to go to the streets. Since you like to march every year in Washington, D.C., Al Sharpton, why don't you bring your behind to Mississippi and march? We need to march in Senatobia. We need to march in Cleveland, Mississippi. We need to march in Jackson for Sister Tasia Fortune. And we need to march in Ocean Springs for Brother Nolan Wells. And check this out, Art. The Attorney General said they're going to keep the toxicology and the autopsy report under seal. They're going to keep the toxicology and the autopsy under seal, Art, until the grand jury gets to see it. A grand jury is going to decide whether or not anybody is going to get charged with a crime, Art. And I have a big problem with that, Art. That's what happened with Carmelo Anthony. That's what happened with Carmelo Anthony. A grand jury proceeding is a relatively secret process, Art. You don't even know who's on the grand jury, Art. You don't even know who's a group of secret white people. A group of secret white people are going to decide if any of those 30 white kids on those 3 boats should be charged with a crime in the death of Nolan Wells. And we won't even know who they are, and we won't even know how they came to their decision, Art. We won't even know who the grand jury is, and we won't even know how the grand jury came to their decision. What is Ben Crump ready to do? What is Al Sharpton ready to do if the grand jury returns no indictments on anybody at all for the death of Nolan Wells? Will Benjamin Crump be ready to march then, Art? Will Al Sharpton be ready to march in Mississippi then? If the grand jury says this was an accidental drowning, case is closed, no indictments, what is Ben Crump and Al Sharpton going to do? Because right now, and I respect them both, Art, but right now, the way this case is being handled, they are too docile, they are too meek, they are too humble, and they are too soft. We need some street action. We need some street protests. We need some street marches. We need to raise up the temperature in Mississippi, Art. That's what we need to do. This is the state that unalived Medgar Evers. This is the state that lynched Emmett Till. This is the state that took the life of Baby Cohen. This is the state that lynched Tasia Fortune. This is the state that lynched Trey Reed. This is Mississippi, the state that tried to lynch Fannie Lou Hamer, the state that tried to lynch Ida B. Wells. When are we going to wake up and smell the coffee? Now, let's get to the infamous call, Art, and I'm going to wrap this up. Let me get to the infamous call, and I'm going to wrap this up. They called the Cito company at 4 o'clock. We already talked about the background noise that the audio engineer, our beautiful black sister, Jeanette Brentley, cleaned up. Sounds very suspicious, Art. It sounds like they may have been in the act of unaliving Nolan Wells when they made the call. It sounds like they may have been in the act of unaliving Nolan Wells when they made the call, Art. Allegedly. And guess what, Art? That would make perfect sense. You want to know why? Because the call was bogus. Nothing was wrong with that ship. This is my allegations. This is my belief and my allegations, and I'm standing on it. Nothing was wrong with the boat, Art, and I'm going to explain to you how we know this. Nothing was wrong with that boat. They made that call because they needed an alibi, Art. They needed an alibi.
And that seems to be the thought that people are having now, that they set those calls up to establish an alibi. I'm sorry, I'm kind of tired, so pardon me if I fumble over my words, but it's believed that they tried to stage an alibi. And that's the reason of that recording. But it was kind of strange that the grandpa is on the phone with the Coast Guard at the same time. Or not Coast Guard, I'm sorry. The guy with Cito. And that same grandpa actually sells memberships for Cito. And the question is, how did he know that there was an issue with the boat unless Wyatt, his grandson, called him? So again, that looked suspicious. Just explaining that part.
So if Nolan Wells, when Nolan's body was found, Art, if they were able to determine the time of death, when Nolan's body was found, and if they were able to determine the time of death, they say, wait a minute, Nolan was unalived at 4 o'clock. Guess what, Art? They could say our boat was sinking at 4 o'clock and we was on the phone with Cito. The phone call was an alibi, Art. The phone call was a decoy. The phone call was a bait and switch. There was nothing wrong with that boat, Art. So listen, we know that Mississippi is going to find all the audio engineers they can find, Art. We know that Mississippi is going to find all the audio engineers that they can find, Art, to try to say that the background noise cannot be corroborated or verified. You know they're going to say that. They're going to say we can't use the background noise. It's too much going on. We don't care what Sister Jeanette Brantley had to say. We don't care what y'all conspiracy theorists got to say. We had our own FBI audio engineers listen to it, and they can't make out the conversation. I believe it says what Sister Jeanette Brantley says it says. I believe it, Art. It makes perfect sense. They called at the time that they were unaliving him to have an alibi and an excuse. But guess what, Art? Even if they throw out the background noise, I believe we still have probable cause to arrest all 30 of those white kids. And I'm going to tell you why, Art. Let's listen to the conversation, Art. Let's listen to the conversation. He calls the operator on Cito. The operator says, how can I help you? And I'm paraphrasing. He says, our boat is sinking and we need a tow. She says, how much water are you in? He says, we're in 17 feet of water. No. We in 31 feet of water. Art, there's a big difference between 17 and 31. There's a big difference between 17 and 31. Why don't you know if you are in roughly 17 feet of water? And why don't you know if you are in roughly 31 feet of water? You are on the boat all the time. This is what they do, Art. They boat all the time. They go to Horn Island all the time. Why don't you know if you're in 17 foot of water or 31 foot of water? 31 foot of water. But Art, it gets better than this, Art.
One thing, I don't know if he even points this out during this interview. I can't recall if he does or not. But when the Cito operator asked for his coordinates and he finally gave the coordinates, she said, so you're on Horn Island? And he said, yeah. If you plug those coordinates that he gave her in, you will find that those coordinates were actually at the edge of Horn Island, not 31 feet deep of water further out into the ocean. So, with that said, I'll let you draw your own conclusion. But he wasn't out there in the middle of the water, out in the middle of the ocean. According to those coordinates that he gave her, they were sitting right on the edge of Horn Island.
Gets better. The Cito operator, Art, says, do you want me to call the Coast Guard? Do you want me to call the Coast Guard? Guess what he said? We don't need the Coast Guard. Art, if your boat is sinking, do you care who comes to rescue you? If your boat is sinking, if I'm sinking in 31 feet of water, you could call the Coast Guard, you could call the aliens, you could call the Snow Bunny boat, you could call whoever you want to call if my boat is sinking. He told the operator, we don't need the Coast Guard. Who does that, Art? Who says we don't need the Coast Guard if we sinking? So she says, okay. She says, how many adults are on the boat? Pay attention to this, Art. We caught him in another lie. Listen to this. She says, how many adults are on the boat? He said, quote, there are no adults on the boat. He lied, Art. Second lie. First lie, he said, Nolan said, I'm staying behind to hang out with Katie. Y'all can leave me. Katie said Nolan told her, I'm headed back to the boat because my friend's about to leave. That was lie number one. That was lie number one. You lied and said Nolan said he was going to stay behind with Katie. That was a lie. Lie number two, the Cito operator asked you, how many adults are on the boat? He said there are no adults on the boat, Art. Why did he lie? Why did he lie? She said, how many people on the boat? He said, everybody on the boat is under 21. Art, she said, that was not my question.
Peterc, Peterc, I guess is how you pronounce. I hope I pronounce it right. He said, pretend oppression must be exhausting. Or trying to conceal it must also be exhausting. Or condoning the cover up. That's got to be exhausting too, because when you're covering things up, that means that you have to lie. And lying is definitely more exhausting than telling the truth. Boom. Hold on.
Art, she begged him to tell her how many people are on the boat. She said, that's not my question. How many people are on the boat? She said, is anybody breathing on the boat? He said, a lot of people breathing on the boat. She said, is there anybody living on the boat? He said, yes, people are alive on the boat. Art, I would like to investigate her. She didn't do no crime. I want to know what made that operator say, is anybody breathing on the boat? What made her say, is anybody alive on the boat, Art? What did she hear in the background? What did that operator hear in the background to make her ask him, is anybody breathing on the boat? That don't sound like a regular question. And then she said, is anybody living on the boat? It's almost like she could feel something was going on. I would love to know if those were standard questions, Art. I would love to know if those were standard questions or if she had a hunch that something fishy was going on. Now check this out, Art. She asked him a third or fourth time. He would not answer the question, Art. He would not answer the question. How many people are on the boat? Guess what he said, Art? Like 7. Like 7. Art, the boat only holds 8. They went out there that morning with 8. 7 Caucasians and Nolan. 7 Caucasians and Nolan. Art, they left with 7, right? When she said how many people on the boat, Art, why did he say like 7? Why didn't he say 7?
Okay, I have a question for those of you who might be familiar with boating and the laws that pertain to boating and stuff like that. When you take a boat out, I'm just asking for my own understanding. When you take a boat out and you've got passengers on your boat, and you have to account for those people, correct? Going and coming, correct? So if you left with 7, don't you have to account for those 7 people to come back? Is that correct or not? I'm just asking. If you could leave the answer in the chat, I'd appreciate it.
It's only 7 people. Why couldn't he say 7? Why did he say like 7? You know why he said like 7, Art? Because he didn't know if Nolan was still alive or not. He didn't know if Nolan was still alive or not. So let me say like 7 in case he survives.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because Art, if you call me up and say, Dr. Umar, how many people at the basketball game? I can't count them all, Art. I'm going to say like 100. It's like 100. Because I don't know. It could be a little less than 100. It could be a little more than 100. I'm going to say it's like 100. But Art, if it's only 7 people on the boat, I don't need to say like 7. I could just say 7. He didn't want to give her a direct answer. Why didn't he want to give her a direct answer, Art? Because he knows it should have been 8 people on that boat. He know it should have been 8 people on that boat. So he said like 7 because he didn't want to say 7 so nobody can ask him where the hell was Nolan. Nolan's life was taken between 3:30 and 4:30, and they know exactly how and who. They know exactly how and who, Art. And they took the phone and the keys to get rid of any evidence. They took the phone and the keys to get rid of any evidence. And if Sister Christine and Sister Tashima didn't go to that girl's house to get that phone, they would have discarded it, Art. They were going to discard the keys in the phone and act like they never even had them either. Now, I'm going to give you this one piece, Art, and I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to give you this one piece, Art, and I'm going to leave it alone. As I said, I'm very disappointed in the fact that Sheriff Ledbetter and District Attorney Morath are not investigating all 30 of those children. I'm disappointed that all 3 boats were not treated like a crime scene. Now, my primary theory, they unalived him on the boat, threw him over to make it look like a drowning. They unalived him on the boat or on land before they took off, threw him in the water to make it look like a drowning. But I'm going to say this to you, Art. I have another theory as well. I got 2 theories. That's my first theory. Let me give you my second theory, and we're done on this. There's a strong chance, Art, that after they unalived Nolan, they held on to the body overnight and dumped it the next day, Art. Or they took the body to one of the other islands around Horn Island and dumped the body. And let me tell you why I believe this, Art. Let's go back to Emmett Till. Let's go to Emmett Till, Art. Emmett.
Okay, now this is what got me. This is what really got me. We've all heard the story about Emmett Till, okay? And if this don't move you, I don't know what will. Here we go.
Till was unalived on August 28th. They tied
1950.
They barbed wired Emmett Till to a 75-pound cotton gin, 1955. August 28th, 1955, Emmett Till was unalived, and they barbed wired him to a 75-pound cotton gin and threw him in the Tallahatchie River. The Tallahatchie River, Art, is a freshwater river. Horn Island is on the Gulf of Mexico. It's salt water. Salt water is rougher and more active and more buoyant than fresh water, Art. Follow me on this. Emmett Till got thrown in the Tallahatchie, barbed wired to a 75-pound cotton gin, Art, and his body made it up to the surface on August the 31st. Even though he was tied to a 75-pound cotton gin in a river, his body floated up to the surface in 3 days, Art. Emmett Till was 14. Nolan Wells is 18. If Nolan Wells was unalived and dumped immediately on July 4th, Art, we should have saw his body on July 5th. If Emmett Till's body can make it to the top in 3 days, tied to a cotton gin, Art, why did Nolan Wells' body only surface the morning of July 6th? I think there is a strong possibility they held onto his body, Art, because they were afraid that if they dumped it immediately, it would surface too soon. If they dumped Nolan's body too soon, it would have surfaced before they were ready. That body could have floated back, Art, before they made it back home. They all go to jail. They could have held onto his body, Art, and dumped it on July 5th or dumped it the morning of July 6th. Because according to science, Art, Nolan's body should not have surfaced for 3 days. Or, according to what happened to Emmett Till, it should have surfaced within a day. The fact that it took Nolan Wells' body 41 hours before we saw it, I think that body might have gotten dumped, Art. I think they might have held onto Nolan Wells' body and dumped it a day or two later. And that's why the other 2 boats are important to the investigation, Art. How do we know Nolan wasn't unalived on one boat and held on the second boat? How do we know that? How do we know a second boat didn't take Nolan Wells' corpse to one of them other islands and then the body floated back, Art? Why are we not investigating all 3 boats and all 30 white children? Art, I'm going to tell you like this. For that boy to not tell that CETO operator how many people was on that boat, and she asked him 3 times, and the fact he lied and said there was no adults, and then he still didn't answer her question and said everybody under 21, and she had to repeatedly say that was not my question. Why are you unwilling to tell her it's only 7 people and not 8 people? Last thing I'm going to say, Art, shout out to Tyler Perry, Terrell Owens, Colin Kaepernick, for helping to pay for the funerals, autopsy, as well as reward money for information leading to an arrest. But guess what, Art? That reward money needs to be more than $175,000. Mississippi is the poorest state in America. 1 in 4 people live in poverty. We need that reward money, Art, to go up to $1 million. I need LeBron James, Rihanna, Tiger Woods, Venus, Serena, Kanye. Get that reward money up to $1 million, Art. We need the reward money up to $1 million so those white folks will start talking. 175,000, Art, is not enough money. We need $1 million. Guess how they found the 3 civil rights workers in Philadelphia, Mississippi in 1964, Art? Remember the Ku Klux Klan murdered those 3 workers? Cheney, Goodman, and Swerner, Mississippi burning. Guess how they found out? An undercover FBI agent tipped off the FBI to where those 3 bodies were buried. Do the FBI have any undercover officers operating in this case? Does the state of Mississippi Bureau of Investigation have any undercover officers operating in this case? We need some undercover agents to weave into the lives of these young people and find out exactly what happened to Nolan Wells. And that's why Benjamin Crump and Al Sharpton need to demand a federal takeover of this investigation immediately.
All right. Listen, I've got one little thing I want to share with you guys before I end the live, if that's okay with you. Okay, if you just bear with me for just one moment. I've got one small thing to share with you before I end the live. Okay, let me make sure I've got it. I have this video on my channel that I just recently made. It's very short and to the point. And basically it's letting people know that you need to be mindful. In today's climate, we need to be mindful on who we allow our kids to hang out with and stuff like that. We are, whether we like it or not, we are in a racist society. Let's be truthful about it. A lot of the things that were said in the chat told me what I needed to know, which I already knew. But I want to share something with you. This is why, as Black people, we have to be mindful of who our children are hanging with. And we need to teach our children not to be the only one in the bunch for reasons just like this. Okay? And it's not to be racist. It's not trying to be racist. It's to be careful. Okay, hold on just a second. For telling our kids, don't be the only one in the bunch.
We keep telling the grown-ass man he's not a fucking quit. Look, I'm gonna die.
Wait,
I ain't got the fucking pass. You gotta learn how to swim. Fucking whoa. You can flip down wherever you fucking retard. I think I'm staying. Bro, how am I gonna get you back home? You don't.
Okay, for those of you who don't know what I'm playing right here, this is a video of a young Black dude that is on the side of the river with a child's life jacket on that were given to him by his friends on the other side of the river. 2 white friends, I might add. And he can't swim. And they're trying to coax him out into the water. And he's saying, no, I can't swim. I'll die. I can't swim. And they're, of course, this is funny to them. This is funny to them. This is not a funny, laughing matter. But this was all fun and games to them. I want you to watch this video very closely. Because there are good people out there.
Mama Marquise is gonna be worried? Yeah, your mom. My mom's name. My dad. Your mom is always worried about you. My dad. I think that's why. Look at that person we know. We can tell just by looking at you.
Out here ridiculing him.
Bro, we get you can't swim. Bro, just go get a fucking life jacket on, Marquise.
I'll just wait.
Bro, you have a life jacket.
Bro, I'm black. It doesn't matter. It's not gonna save me.
Bro, yes it does.
Bro, I'll just find a way. Hey,
They're out here making chimp noise.
Bro, you have a life jacket.
I'm gonna die.
Standing right
Hold
now.
on to the
You have to
back
go.
board.
On,
I'm
you
just trying to
did
get
that
over
to get
there.
over there.
We can get
We
you
taught him how to swim.
Oh, so I can just like hold on to the back.
And here if you want.
Yeah, I might drown.
You won't drown.
You won't
Try
drown.
to get
You're not going to drown. I promise you won't drown.
There you go.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Huh?
What's your
Oh,
name?
my name is Marquise. But everybody calls me Lamar because I go to the Nella.
Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was okay getting over here. And they think I'm about to swim back. I can't even swim.
Good job right now.
Talking around both of this. And it's my first time here.
It's your
Oh, first time? Well, welcome.
Yeah.
How'd you get over here?
Yeah, what
They made me
happened?
take that way over there, and they had 2 life jackets on. I'm never coming back with y'all.
Yo, we told you if you were coming, we had a life jacket.
A life
makes
jacket.
you float.
This ain't even for a big kid. This for a little kid.
Oh my god.
You're welcome.
Thank God for that family.
Yeah, I'm never coming back with y'all.
I don't know what to say.
Fuck, his friends are.
Proud of yourselves. Lord have mercy. Well, I'm going to end the show on that note because I needed to make a point. Because people have a tendency to look within, they don't look within themselves, they look at others as being the wrong one. But in this particular case, who was the wrong one? So I implore every black parent out there, or even better, let me go so far as to say every non-white parent out there, teach your kids. See, this is something that unfortunately, Nolan didn't learn this. His parents didn't teach him this. For whatever reason, maybe they didn't think that it was necessary. Teach your children to be aware of their surroundings, and don't be the only one in the bunch. Bold and Beautiful said, it's not just white friends, though. We can teach discernment in children. Absolutely. But I'm saying in the racial climate that we're dealing with right now, we have to teach these kids the basics. We got to teach the basics. Don't let your kids out there as the only one in a group different from themselves. Because we don't know how people conduct themselves when they're not in our presence. And this isn't being racist, this is being cautious and caring about your children. It's not a hate issue. It's a be careful issue. It's a survival issue. Tony said, outside of social media, who in real life is racist to you in person? Is that directed toward me, or is that just a general question? Because there's all forms of racism. I'm talking about the kind of racism that can eliminate your life. I can't divulge all this other stuff because sometimes we don't even know that we're dealing with racists. Depending on what part of the country you're in. Because I can tell you where I am, they smile. Oh, they smile. They the ones that stab you in the back when you turn your back. And that's from experience. Yes, Natasha, I sure did. There's so many instances of, oh my God, there's so many cases out there that are not hitting the news of one black person and a bunch of white people, and they don't live. And nobody knows nothing. That's a problem. And the racist people may not want to admit it, but it is what it is. Leo Lyon said, these are the same people that get up and go to their little church and listen to the racist pastor. Absolutely. What we're dealing with right now is spiritual warfare. Just because somebody's thumping a Bible and goes to church every Sunday and stands behind the pulpit don't mean that they mean you any good. So I'm just saying, teach your children whatever you do. I beg you, please, teach your babies. You can still tell them to love their brothers and sisters. Kids have a natural tendency to be loving to one another. But it's still our responsibility as parents to teach them survival. And now we're in survival mode. So with that said, I want to thank everybody that came and hung out with me this afternoon. You guys don't know how much that really warmed my heart that you guys hung out with me. I appreciate all the comments, the support. If you haven't done so already, hit the like button on your way out. If you would like to subscribe to the channel, you can hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for coming out. This live lasted 3 hours. I didn't think I'd be sitting here this long, but this is a subject that needs to be talked about on a regular basis until everybody at least everybody that we can reach gets the memo. Okay? But our kids are targets now. They're not targeting just black bodies. They're not just targeting black bodies. They're targeting black children. I guess they figure maybe if they cut it off at the root. I don't know what the reasoning is, but we as parents, grandparents, we have got to protect ours. We've got to protect ours because they sure enough protect theirs, don't they? But you don't harm people in the process. We're not out to harm nobody. Folks want to throw that black on black crime on us all the time. Yeah, well, there's white on white crime too. And your point? But the bottom line is this. When you got people that hate you because of the color of your skin, you've got to protect yourself. So with that said, I'm going to go peace out, y'all. Have a wonderful evening. Again, hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to. And thank you so much. Love y'all. Love one another.
Hey there, my kinfolk. Thanks for stopping by. Auntie Mickey's house, where we reach for the sky. Every comment and smile, you make my heart glow. Together we're strong, together we grow. From gossip to politics, we cover it all. Sharing laughs and thoughts, having a ball. Your support means everything that I know. Feels like family here in this sweet show. So let's keep it flowing, keep the love alive. Every moment together makes it bright. Your support lifts me up, takes flight. No matter where you're from, near or far, you're our shining star. Just who you are. Stay tuned, stay strong, and keep the love inside. Auntie Mickey's house.